Hello, boys. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you both well?
Aye,
Yeah.
tolerably so, I think. Yeah.
Good as can be.
We're about to talk about a lot of guitars out here, I would imagine.
Probably.
It's going to come up.
Probably, I would imagine.
What are
yeah.
they?
So you've literally just come out of the studio, just finished your third album? Fifth album.
Fifth album.
Wow. Axis
Yeah.
with Mr. Ellis.
With Mr. Ellis, yeah. Yeah.
How many albums have you done there?
This is the second one there.
Cool. Did you do the White Raven there?
We did the White Raven there, yeah.
Cool. How was it?
It was great. I mean, we were there for 20-something days over about 6 months, so...
Oh, so you sort of booked blocks of days and just
exactly,
went and did bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Cool.
We did it all sort of in bits, if you like.
Right.
Which is, because he likes to record one thing at a time, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Which is fine. So, yeah, I mean, I was there every day because I sort of co-produced this one.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, yeah, because that's exactly what I was like. Because I saw some footage and in every one, like you were in the studio with a notepad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I used to do that.
Yep. No, I was there every day.
For all the drums and the bass and everything.
Everything. Because, I knew how I wanted it to sound. And
you're the main songwriter?
Yeah. And the rule is if you write the song, then you get to call the shots, so...
Has any of yours written many songs?
Yeah, Jackson's co-written a few, and he's written some on his own.
Ah, cool. That have ended up on the album?
He's co-written one that's on the album.
Right, cool.
So he gets to call the shots on that.
Fair enough.
Like, he gets to say, no, you can't do that.
Not on vocals, though, surely?
Yeah, if he didn't... I mean, see, the thing is, when it comes to vocals, I'm very happy to be... advised by people,
right?
Because maybe I'll think, well, maybe this should be a bit smoother, and actually, what it's crying out for is something that's a bit gruffer, or vice versa.
Right.
So I'm quite happy for them to go. Jax was there when I was tracking all my vocals anyway. For them to go, well, that needs a bit more bollocks to it, or that. Are we allowed to say that?
You can swear on here. Yeah,
brilliant.
You can swear. It's fine.
Fuck it. Yeah. So
you said the word cunt on the last time you were here.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Sounds like me, doesn't it? Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I'm happy for them to say, well, this needs a bit more and that needs a bit less, and once I'd got the melody down for that one, and the lyrics and what have you, then if he didn't like that, he could shout up and say, "Don't like that." Or my guitar line, or whatever. It's his song as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
He calls the shots.
So, was there any time when you were all there, or was it like you were just there with the drummer while he was doing his drums?
First day, we just finished at Amplified Festival down in Worcestershire. Is it Worcestershire?
Yeah.
No, not
Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire. Yeah. When we drove past a village called Clapton, it was like...
Let's go and see if Eric's in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wonder how Derek's doing. And so we just finished Amplified, and then we got in the car after it and went to Doncaster, and then the four of us were there for the scratch tracking, effectively.
Right, yeah.
So we did the larger part of that day just scratch tracking, because we did 15 tracks. So
I was going to say, that's a lot for an album. You must have some shorter songs on it.
Well, I don't like songs that waffle on anyway, so...
No, that's true. How many was on the White Raven?
10.
So they must have been longer songs then. Or did it just... I suppose it doesn't have to be the 10. It's the quality, not the length, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's more to do with... I think some of them were a bit longer. This one... yeah, there are some short ones on it. I mean, I've always got Tom Petty in the back of my head going, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus," right? So, and if you've got nothing more to say, why would you spin that out for another 2 minutes? Why bother? Some of them are literally 2.5 minute pop songs, albeit done by a bunch of hairy northern bastards and one southerner.
Nice. So, what was the next section? Did the bass player go with you next time?
Yeah, it was guides, and then me and Andy stuck down there for 3 days, I think we did, on drums.
Yeah.
And then it was Steve for 2 days. I think he actually probably had the hardest job because, obviously being fairly new to the band, he didn't know all the bass lines in their, in what they should be in terms of like complicated.
How much time did he have?
He was there for 2 days. He got it all done.
No, but before that, to prepare for this whole thing.
Maybe a couple of months, but we were on tour for some of that.
Okay, yeah.
So he'd found like his way of playing it, which was fine, but simple sort of way of playing it. And then we had to teach him as we were recording the actual complex bass lines with figures and Alberti stuff and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had a tough task, but yeah, he managed splendidly well.
So when you were there just recently finishing off, what was that just like? What I used to call it, fiddle time, just like getting stuff, volumes right, and maybe adding some. If you've got any idea, because if you end up with bonus time, you can go. Maybe we could have put an effect there, or.
Well, yeah. I mean, what we did after we'd done the bass, then we had 7 days of guitars, which was 3 days of Jackson.
That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
Not when you do that, I suppose, not when you're layering and putting the same thing down over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, we had 3 days of Jax, who played some really cool and interesting guitars that were there, and some of his own.
Oh, he's got a lot, hasn't he? He's got some cool guitars.
Yeah, and then we did 4 days of me, and then we did a week of vocals and backing vocals and multi-part guitars. And
Are you more lead then? Or did you both put a rhythm track down for the songs?
It depends. We set ourselves specific rules on this one, because the obvious thing is that most people want to double track everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that guitar tracks can sometimes lose a lot of their power and potency if you're double tracking everything. Like the old AC/DC records, they didn't double track everything, right?
No.
And I think knowing that we were going to put a lot more stuff on top, I felt it was important. So we set the rule, you get one rhythm track. You can do a different one as long as it's different. It has to be different to your original rhythm track.
As in a different riff or a different sound? Or both?
Both.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So that was the rule. Unless it absolutely, unless it was like 100% necessary that you double track something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's sort of spread out between us who does lead and who's rhythm. It's mainly Jackson that does rhythm, and me that I'm kind of the dynamics really. So in the choruses I tend not to do a right lot guitar wise, and then I come in the verses I tend not to do a lot guitar wise, and then in the choruses I'll come in or
Add some colour.
or the pre-choruses or whatever it needs. You know what I mean? Just to kind of lift it up a bit.
Yeah. Do you do most of the lead work then?
Yeah.
You seem to do it live mainly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hesitant there because we have had people say, "Well, Jackson never plays a solo," and that's just not true. Not true, folks. Not true.
Predominantly it is you, but he does some. Because if he comes up with something, then I suppose he can play it.
We ask at the time we're putting the song together, do you want to take the solo on this? If he says yes, he's got it. I don't argue. You can do what you want, Bob.
That's fair enough.
If he doesn't want to do it, I do it.
So where do you think your strength is in songwriting?
I don't know. That's a really interesting question.
On the guitar side or on the vocal lyrics sides?
Actually, they're all one and the same to me.
Do you class yourself as a guitar player or a singer?
Neither. I class myself as a songwriter.
There you go. Good answer.
Though I do spend a lot more time on guitar than I do on vocals.
I think we all do.
Just because
I never wanted to be a singer.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much ended up having to sing because nobody else would.
Me the same. I was like, I'm never going to get... If I don't sing, I'm never going to get a band going, so
yeah,
I'll just have to do it.
Same,
so,
yeah. Same.
Yeah.
And then, you have to kind of, just through hours of...
Doing it.
Yeah, you kind of...
Get yourself to the point where you can hold a note.
Yeah, exactly, and then, you find that...
It gets easier, I suppose.
It does, and then you can belt notes, and then you can change how you're singing. And
I don't know about you two, though, but how did you feel when as opposed to playing guitar and singing, but then it's a total different ballgame doing them both at the same time? For me, that was a game changer.
Yeah, I find... I don't know about you, but I can play a gig 2 hours, no problem, just playing guitar.
Yeah.
But as soon as I start playing guitar and singing, I am pissing sweat.
Yeah,
Where's
I'm
your
exactly
right
the
now?
same.
Yeah,
I'm
where's
just-
your right now? Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's a full body mind
Yeah.
workout. The whole
yeah, it's a much more visceral experience.
it is, because if you miss that note, you're fucked.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna
Miss a
stand-
note and forget a lyric.
Yeah, well,
do a double fuck up.
oh, we've all done that, man. You sing.
But
this-
I always felt I could be a better guitar player or a better singer if I just
Mm.
did one. Like it was always it was always
Compromise,
pushing
yeah.
me to my limit to do both at the same time.
For me, it depends what I'm playing. If
It does
if
depend
it's,
on what you're playing though. I
if
suppose.
it's a riff based thing, and especially if the riff's got nothing to do with what you're singing,
Yeah.
that can be a bit of a mind fuck. You
Yeah.
know, you've got to really concentrate, or get to the point where you can play it on autopilot,
Yeah.
and then you can just focus on the singing, or you can focus on one particular part
Mm.
rather than as a whole. You know,
Well,
that's
we
what
were,
I've
we
been
were
doing.
getting more technical as we were going along, so
Yeah.
it became more of a challenge I had to really think about the melodies that I was putting over the top of it, because I used to come up with melodies on the guitar that would
Yeah.
make vocal melodies and then put words on it, fit words to that. But then it got to the point where like, but can I sing this melody when I'm
Yeah.
playing
yeah,
this?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got two, rhythms that are at odds with each other, from what you're playing and what you're singing, that can be an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
Sometimes you can get away with it. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can't. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys were doing a lot of palm muting and stuff anyway. So I mean, yours was, I would say, a lot more complicated than what I do. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It certainly had a lot more you would have to think about than what I do.
Mm.
You know, I just do what I do.
Yes. When you do it after a while, it just comes more naturally, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, I'm just trying to inject a little bit more melody or harmony, or a different melody or a different harmony
Yeah.
into it, or a counterpoint to the original line. Most of the time, I don't like to do the original line as I've written it, and then Jackson takes that.
Okay.
You know, or if he's written the song, then he's playing what he's written. Most of the time, I don't like to play exactly the same thing as him, unless it needs it. You know, if it's a big chunky chorus, then sometimes it needs to be two guitars to kind of
beef it up.
fill it out a
Yeah.
bit. But if it's a pre-chorus, or sometimes if it is a chorus, it doesn't need two guitars playing exactly the same thing.
No,
even,
no, definitely
even
not.
if one's, even if on some of our songs, I'll be capoed at the second, and he's not capoed at all. So you get
Yeah.
two different voicings of the same chords. That can
I can add
work
colour
great.
to it, can't I? But because you play in a trio, the
Yeah,
Dean
yeah.
Newton trio. Well,
Yeah.
I was thinking a trio, there's less room for, I don't know, it's more raw and stripped down, so there's less room for mistakes, or you can't hide behind other guitars.
Yeah,
like,
there's a bit of that, yeah. But in other ways as well, you can be more free as well, So
creatively, yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely the mistakes almost seem amplified. Yeah, you are
Mm.
very aware that if you drop out or whatever, that there's a huge component of the sound that's suddenly just gone missing.
I've seen that with a few bands where they've gone
Yeah.
for a 4-piece, a
Mm.
guitar
Yeah.
player's left, and they've just gone to a 3-piece,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've had to totally change the way they play
Mm,
and
yeah,
adapt
yeah,
the
yeah.
sound, and especially if you recorded an album as a 4-piece, then your next album's a 3-piece. That would be like that'd be a big undertaking. That
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But how long have you been doing the
trio.
Dean Newton trio?
It's about 12 months.
Okay, yeah.
It was. Probably born out of frustration, like a lot of things.
Yeah.
The
Were you many bands before that?
Yeah. Well, all sorts of other projects and stuff. There was AWOL. I was together
AWOL, that was a
with,
name I couldn't remember.
with Matty and Stephen from Heartbreak Remedy. I know you've had them on.
Yeah.
I mean, we still play now and again, but that's just rock covers.
Yeah,
then
yeah.
It's just very occasional. That's just good fun actually. Now it's just
Yeah.
we hardly play anymore, but when we get together, it's just a laugh. We never practice or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then I had a band for quite a few years called Secure Unit. That was with Frank Hall, the drummer from Necromandus. People might know him.
Yeah.
And we had a band for a while, and that was kind of almost the band out that I wanted to be in. But it was still quite cover based. We had a few original tunes. We did one CD, but nothing really came of it. And then just through sort of that and networking with guys, I met the bass player Jeff. He'd sort of been on cruise ships for years and years, an old pro kind of guy, and he'd been out of the scene for a long time. He hadn't done any gigs, and it just turns out we've got a lot of shared interests. But when there's me and Jeff, and then John Marcangelo, our drummer. A lot of people, some people might know him. He was in a band called Violinsky in the 70s.
Right.
With Mick Kaminsky from ELO, the violinist from ELO.
Yep.
And they had a big hit called Clog Dance, and it was on Top of the Pops and all that. John wrote that tune. So he's a multi-instrumentalist. But Yeah, it just turned out that the three of us have got a lot of shared influences. We're all sort of really into jazz and stuff like that. So when we sort of decided to put a trio together, it was originally just going to be a project to just get and jam out the tunes that we couldn't get away with playing live, you know, that or that nowhere would
Allow you to
want
play.
us to play them. Yeah. And then it just started out like that, and then we thought, well, you know, we want to get out gigging. And I had a few songs I'd written, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. I quickly not banged out, but I quickly sort of got together about 11 songs. So we recorded them, and from that, you know, we've done all right. I mean, like I say, we've only been together 12 months, but we've done a bit of travelling so far. I mean, only in the UK. We haven't gone any further afield yet, but we're getting around, and we've got quite a lot booked in for this year. So I mean, hopefully, if the trajectory we're on
continues,
anything to go by, it looks good, you know. But you know, you just take it one gig at a time, really.
So you sing and play guitar in that?
Yeah,
band?
I do. Yeah.
So it's you play guitar, a bass player, and a drummer.
And drums. It's pretty standard power trio format, really. Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name?
Oh well, yeah, it's dead inventive, isn't it? Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, the probably sounds very sort of egotistical, but I always not always wanted, but I needed I felt like I needed something that had my name attached to it in some way, you know. And I didn't just want to go out as Dean Newton, because I see a lot of people do that, and sometimes, a lot of the time, they have a scratch band who's just been sort of like drove. They've come into the depths or whatever, you know. They aren't an actual band.
Sometimes the band doesn't get any credit.
None at all.
If it's a trio,
that's
people know it's a trio.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. And I wanted it to be. It's definitely more of a democracy rather than a dictatorship. Bit like you guys, you know. I mean, you know, you have an equal say, and I try and keep it that way. You know, even though you know, I do pretty much everything, you know. Everything from book the gigs, write the songs, drive the van, you know, the lot, you know. But even still, that I'm quite happy to do that, because obviously I'm aware it's got my name on it, you know. So that and the sort of the privilege to play with them other two guys, you know, they're both old pros, both incredible musicians. So I kind of feel like that's my duty to do that, if you know what I mean, right? You know, and because they're not making a lot of money out of it, you know. So I wouldn't say they're doing a favour to me, but because I think they enjoy it anyway.
Well, they must do.
But yeah.
I looked at some of the videos, and you can tell they're
They do. They love it. Yeah.
And so they're quite happy to give you your moment.
Oh, full on. Yeah.
I was saying to Tek before. There's a video where I just googled it, put it in YouTube. And there's a video came up, you playing somewhere, and you're going for it. Yeah. The bass player is just there, kind of going.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
It's like, just let him do his thing. Let the boy play.
Yeah. No, they're great like that. Yeah, they give me free rein. No, it's good because it's a very interactive band. You know, like I said, we all come from sort of that. You know, we've all got very eclectic tastes, but between us, we've got that sort of jazz funk sort of rock thing. You know. Yeah. And a big part of that style is the interaction and the jamming on stage and the spontaneity of it, really. You know, so that we try and get that into every gig. I mean, even, you know, most songs have an element of jamming in them, you know, and luckily when you're playing with guys like that, you know that they can, you know, if you go off too far, they can really back in, you know, or you almost feel like you've got a safety net there when you've got such a strong rhythm section.
Gives you more confidence.
Yeah, whatever you do, you know they've got you back, you know. That's
because
sort of
if they're all pros, then they can just handle any situation.
And they can hear where I'm going usually as well. I mean, John, the drummer, he's got the most incredible ears. I mean, he's so intuitive, you know. He can pick up on a rhythm that I've played within a millisecond. Sometimes he almost sort of preempts it, you know, like he'll play something. I was going to play that, you know, he just knows, you know. He's just so intuitive, and he's listening all the time, which is a rare quality for a drummer, you know.
So what's your preferred style of music?
I haven't got one really. I mean, I make the joke sometimes that I was a frustrated sort of jazz player, you know, because I do sort of straight edge jazz gigs sometimes when I'm playing that. But I came from a rock background, you know, started off playing all the rock stuff and went through all that. And
like who?
Oh man, well, really, from sort of the age of 11 when playing with AWOL, it started off with all the classic rock guys. Yeah. And I always loved Queen as a kid, and then got into Led Zepp from there. Yeah. And then just all the standard stuff. And then when I hit sort of 13, 14, 15, I discovered all the sort of 80s shredder guys, you know, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and that was a big influence on me at that time. Yeah. And that was a big influence on me at that time. Not so much now, I don't really listen to any of that now. But I'm glad I went through that phase because I got a lot of technique and things from that, you know.
Who was it that made you pick up a guitar? Was there anyone in particular?
No. Probably one of my primary school teachers. I started learning guitar in secondary school, but the weird thing, I went to sort of a typical sort of Roman Catholic primary school, and one of the teachers played a guitar in assembly, and I was just always a bit fascinated by it. And obviously that combined with the music that was on in my house, my dad always had the Beatles on, my mum had Led Zeppelin on, and so it was just that natural gravitation.
There was always guitar there.
Yeah, basically. And then when I started secondary school, I remember sitting in assembly on the very first day of year 7, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a guitar club on at lunchtime in the music department." And I went, and that was it. Literally, that was literally it, and I sort of never looked back. I got a guitar sort of that Christmas. Yeah. And then it's been downhill ever since.
Did they just your parents the typical? We'll just get him a cheap guitar because it's not just be a phase.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think they realised, fairly early on. Look, they've been very supportive.
Well, if you stick at it, obviously they know that it's not just a phase.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's one of them very typical hard-working sort of northern men. When I tell him I want to be a musician, it was a bit.
What, you're not going to have a proper job?
Yeah, you're not going to be a scaffolder, but no, incredibly supportive, which is great, obviously, So.
What about you? How did it start for you?
For me,
guitar.
I wanted to be a drummer.
So did I. I started off with the drums.
And
that's terrible.
My mum and dad would not let me play drums because we lived in a terraced house in the centre of Scarborough town centre, and they would not have that, so they got me a guitar instead.
Were you happy about that?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, I think I spent a while hitting the E major chord, as all guitarists do.
You've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
Well, and then my dad showed me a simple blues run because he was in a lot of bands and a recording artist in the 70s. And then later on, not much later on, I have to say, but a little bit later on, I got really into the Beatles around the time the anthology came out.
Yeah.
And obviously, at the age I am, that was just when Britpop was really kicking off and all that kind of stuff.
Did that grab you?
Some of it did, some of it didn't.
Had you already latched onto the older classic stuff before?
Yeah. I mean, I just love the Beatles, and I got the songbook of the Red Album, and I got a book from Banks and Son in York. It's still there.
Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah. Which was called Rhythm Guitar, and it had a Rickenbacker on the front, a Rickenbacker 360, and that's how through that and the Beatles, that's how I learnt chords and bar chords and all that kind of stuff. And then later on, I kind of got into, the heavier stuff. I got into Led Zeppelin, and I was always really into Queen as well from a very early age.
Yeah.
The early stuff.
They were much heavier at the beginning, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first 2 albums I got were the first album and Sheer Heart Attack.
Yeah.
Sheer Heart Attack's still probably in my top 3 albums of all time ever.
Can't argue with that.
No.
So consequently, I still sort of look for quite Brian May sounds on guitars, and I look for quite Roger Taylor sounds on drums. You know what I mean? I like a lot of toms in my drummers, really. And Andy puts up with me very well. So later on, I kind of got into just through my parents' record collection. I got into Free and Paul Kossoff, who's my absolute favourite guitarist ever. I was never. I have a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for the shreddy sort of guys. I mean, you're not really a shredder, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for the technique and the practice that's gone into that, but it's just never really appealed to me.
Shredding just for shredding's sake, just showing off kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, even, just like, I've never really thought that to express myself I need to tap. Do you know what I mean? It's never something that's kind of, it's never like if I listen to Eddie Van Halen, it doesn't grab me the same way that Paul Kossoff just playing a real nice vibrato on a single note does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm.
Well, there was a bit of an exhibitionist side to that kind of playing, I think, where they've developed a bit of reputation, so they're really playing on it, I suppose.
Definitely.
But I always try and listen to: is it working for the song, or is this just noodling? Kind of.
Well,
it can work
Oh, yeah,
depends on
absolutely.
depends on the
Yeah.
song.
I mean, even Mr. May got a bit shreddy at points. You know what I mean?
Certainly. Well,
later
in
on.
moderation, I think it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it per se. It's just never really grabbed me. You know, I mean, you speed up to build a bit of tension. I can get that, but tapping and stuff. I mean, it's a jazz thing anyway, isn't it? Originally, it wasn't Van Halen that came up.
Oh
with
no,
it.
no, it's a lot older than that. Yeah, I think it comes more from the sort of flamenco and classical stuff.
Yeah.
I think originally, yeah.
There's a lot of
and then
like
it was
that.
definitely adapted for jazz stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat really. I used to when I was younger, I loved it for its own thing because the acrobatic thing of it kind of appealed to me, and I still admire that sort of the technical side of it. The people who just because I kind of separate the two things. It's not really music. It's just brilliant for what it is. You know what I mean?
art form, innit?
Yeah, and but at the same time, a lot of my favourite players now have got a lot of technique. I think it's just because it's just the way. It's just what I like, and I've always been sort of enamoured by guitar players who are quite dangerous, if that makes sense. So they kind of live on the I think again that's probably comes from the jazz stuff, but even some of the more fusiony guys who I like, say John McLaughlin or somebody like that. It's almost like they're riding like they're walking a tightrope. It feels that they could fall off at any point. And that sort of element of danger is what.
But they won't.
No, yeah, sometimes they do.
Well,
sometimes
no, they do.
sometimes they do,
But they don't care. They don't care because they can
right.
just go with it.
That's
they can
totally
just
right.
move
Yeah.
up.
It's just pushing it, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's
It's
right.
trying to find that extra
That's it.
movement, that extra
It's like
half note.
surfing, even it's that kind of thing. Yeah.
It's impressive.
But even guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, I love his playing because it's, a lot of people to a lot of people they listen to that and they go, oh no, it's just whittle or it's just shred for, But for me, when I listen to him, there's so much fire and passion in his playing. Like when he does play one note, there's because people always use that sort of thing, oh yeah, he's not like Eric Clapton, Like yeah, well no, of course he isn't. Of course he isn't. But to me, there's just as much emotion in sort of that fire and angst. That's still an emotion. Whether it's you don't have to be playing a pentatonic scale and playing one note.
No,
that's brilliant as well. But I think there's a whole range, isn't there, of emotion.
Certainly is.
And when people just dismiss it outright. I think they forget that sometimes. And
I think a lot of people are like that. They're not really they might not be a guitar player. So
that's a
they
big
don't
thing.
know.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
They're just sort of looking at it from the outside.
I mean, I think Malmsteen and people. Well, yeah, specifically Malmsteen is kind of. There's a lot of Paganini in there, isn't there? You know what I mean? There's it's a real kind of. He's more like a violinist than a guitarist.
He's a frustrated violin player. Yeah, he did say that. Same with Alan Holdsworth is probably in my top sort of 3 if that's a thing.
Is it
but
Uli John Roth as well?
He's the thing. But yes, like Holdsworth is one of the greatest sort of technicians and just a genius mind, of all time on the guitar. Sort of unparalleled at what he did. And he famously said in an interview, he said, "I don't even like the guitar." From Bradford. So that's what he said. He says, "I'd rather be a horn player." That's what he said. So, it just that's the way he expressed himself, and he just happened to play a hell of a lot of notes. But it's no different to really like a virtuoso pianist or you listen to a sax player, listen to Charlie Parker or John Coltrane. They play shitloads of notes. And they do. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are geniuses. But. People don't complain so much when they do it, but as soon as a guitar player does it,
there's something about the guitar, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it stands out a bit more.
Yeah,
I think it's just the sound of it.
Yeah, and the exhibition maybe,
if you were walking past like a hall and you heard some guitar player going, you'd be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
But if you heard a pianist just you'd maybe just carry on.
That's what I mean.
But you just carry on walking. But if it was a guitar player, you'd maybe be a bit more interested.
Yeah. But I just think it's all valid, That's the way I think. I used to be a little bit sort of more. When I was at uni and stuff and really studying that stuff, I was a bit more probably elitist, if you like, and that makes me cringe now to even say that.
Well, we all went through that. We all at some point went through that.
But it makes me cringe now. But yeah, it's just like I can just like similar to Hoss, I love Queen and Brian May, people like that. And I mean Jimmy Page, like the guitar intro to Since I've Been Loving You, that to me that is possibly the greatest piece of guitar music ever written, and it's sloppy as fuck when you listen to it. It's like all over the place, but
But it's the
brilliant,
vibe and the feeling of it,
it's
isn't
like,
it?
it still makes their stand up on my arms when I listen to it.
But
you know.
he's consistently sloppy.
Yeah, in a
That's
brilliant,
the
such
thing.
a brilliant way.
You know,
yeah,
he
yeah.
is always sloppy.
Yeah,
It's not. I don't think he's sloppy. I think it's just the way he plays.
Yeah, I totally.
You know,
get
it's because
Yeah.
he plays it exactly the same
Yeah,
way, and that's
totally.
not sloppiness. You know,
That's
No,
a
no.
good point. That's a good point. Yeah,
because I've always thought that.
yeah,
like, the
just
first-
ragged. Maybe that's a better
well,
word. Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what it is. I think it's
Yeah.
just because he. I don't know if he was classically trained or anything like that. I think he's just. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, but it's difficult to play
Oh,
exactly
totally,
like him
totally,
because he's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
unique.
Yeah, he's like elastic. You know, the way
Yeah,
plays.
he is. Yeah, that's a really good
yeah.
way of
Yeah,
putting
he
it.
hasn't,
Yeah,
he hasn't got a strict time feel like
No,
certain
no.
guys, but he's never out of time. He's
No.
just, he just
No.
it
He seems like one of those
fluctuates.
people where it just comes naturally out of him. Just
Yeah.
it's just the way he is.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else, isn't it? You know, if you play on the back end of the beat, then it tends to feel a bit slower, and if you play on the front end of the beat, it feels a bit immediate, and if you're right in the middle, then it's on tempo,
Yeah,
if you
locked
like.
in,
But
yeah.
It must be a really fun way to keep it interesting and not get less chance of getting bored.
Well,
because
they
of
did
playing that way.
they did a different thing every night.
Exactly.
Every
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess when you've got, you know, Bonzo and John Paul Jones and, you know, because they were a three-piece with a singer. Effectively.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
True,
As
true.
far as
Musically, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as musicians go, they're a three-piece.
Mm.
You know, you've got Pagey, John Paul Jones, and Bonham, and Planty's out front wailing and doing what he does, and he, you know, and being a lyrical genius and one of the greatest singers the UK has ever produced, ever. But you know, he's not playing anything. So it is really a three-piece, you know, with a singer.
With added vocals.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But you would just still watch it without the vocals, wouldn't you? But like,
Absolutely.
still amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you watch the song remains the same. I mean,
Yeah.
my God, there's bits of that just
Oh,
make you kind of go,
I grew up watching that.
yeah, you just kind of sit there thinking, how does he know he's going to do that?
Yeah.
How does he know he's going to do
I
that? Have
know.
they worked this out before? Because they said they didn't, but I'm not so sure anymore. You know.
That's a good point. But it's just, I mean, there's so many. Like Herman Lee of Dragon Force, he
Yeah.
for me is a bit one who plays a little bit too
I've
much.
yeah, he leaves me cold. He's one that leaves me
Yeah.
cold.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good guitar player, but
He isn't a good guitar player.
Well,
I shouldn't say that on air. No, no, he is. It's just I'm getting into trouble now. But
go on, get into trouble.
well, I won't. It's not as if I know him. But no, it's,
It's not as if you're gonna get a
I'm
cease
saying
and
that as if-
desist in the
yeah,
post.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think he cares about what I think. But when Dragon Force first sort of came out, everyone was really, you know, they had that Through the Fire and Flames video, and
Yeah.
they had the close-ups of his hands on the guitar, and everyone lost their minds, you know, including me when I was a teenager. You know, I thought, wow. And then as I've come to realise, most of that's sped up anyway in the studio. They
Right.
speed the stuff up after they've done it,
Yeah.
and also when I was about 16, I think it was like Total Guitar magazine or something like that, and I was probably just coming out the other side of that stuff. And he did this instructional thing in there where he was teaching you how to do some sweep picking stuff, and it was terrible. He couldn't play it himself. He really could, and it wasn't even anything particularly difficult really either. And that made me realise. I thought, hang on, how much of this is he actually blagging? You know, and then I caught them at Download Festival one year, and it was terrible. Like, you know, it was.
Is that like smoke and mirrors kind
Well,
of?
yeah, like a lot of it just looks way more impressive than it actually is. You know, and a lot of that stuff where the hand's going over the top of the fretboard and that, it's like, well,
I've heard other people say that.
would you do that in the studio? Like, does it actually sound better if you know? It's like
No.
it's totally
It's
it's
performance.
showmanship, which is cool. You know, that's fine.
but I think sometimes you can rely on it too much.
and people really believe it. People lap that stuff up. You know,
There's
so
people who aren't guitar players.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
yeah,
impressive to
yeah.
look
Oh,
at.
Totally, yeah. But if you actually listen critically, it's not. It's not all, you know, it's not what people think it is. You know, there's
It's not
definitely
Very authentic, I don't think.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's not. It's not. It hasn't got a lot of integrity. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not overly familiar with his playing overall. I mean, I've seen him play, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whether he can do other styles of. Have you ever seen him do anything else?
Not that I know of. You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're kind of into that power stuff. You know. That they
Stick
do,
to
but
the same
but
sort
yeah,
of thing.
and I mean,
'Cause the best guitar players can do all different types of stuff. Can't
well,
they?
yeah. So
Quite often, whatever they end up getting famous for isn't what they started doing.
That,
They've
yeah,
just
so-
sort of
yeah, that's-
naturally grown
yeah,
into it.
That's often the case. Yeah.
So you went down to London to study
I did, yeah.
guitar?
Yeah. Well, it was a music degree, but it was guitar. It was a guitar institute, so it's like
Right.
a guitar specific, if that makes sense.
Did you get a lot out of that then?
Oh yeah, a hell of a lot. I mean, I could, when I was looking at places to go, that was kind of the only one on my mind. Really, it was really just because of the quality of the tutors that were there. I knew if I went there, I'd be getting taught by like the best guys. They're all the top session guys in London and stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew quite a few who they were from reading things like Guitar Techniques magazine. They're all writers in that. So. Well, for anybody listening, if they might know any of them, there's a guy called John Wheatcroft. He's an incredible UK player. A guy called Mike Outram. He's originally from Manchester. Jim Clark. These are all sort of well-known names in the session world.
Yeah.
But
what was the name of the actual college?
Well, it was the Guitar Institute. Was the college, but it was the London College of Music that it was part of. It was part of that.
I think our guitar player Kev. I think that might be where
he went. Yeah,
could well have been.
Yeah. I think it was. But no, it was. I got a hell of a lot out of it. Yeah.
What years were you there?
2008 to 2011.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I have to check that with Kev. I think he was there.
Yeah,
similar.
What's his second name?
Kev Smith.
No, I don't know him, but yeah, no, it was a very worthwhile experience. I think a situation like that where you're amongst people who are all trying to do the same thing as you, it does accelerate things a bit. I'm pretty sure I could have probably learnt all that stuff on my own, but it would have took a lot longer.
Yeah,
and just have the sort of feedback as well from them guys, the teachers and your peers as well.
Yeah. It gives you a proper grounding in the whole fundamentals.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have sort of a lot of that down already, but I think for me as well, it gets rid of any preconceptions you might have about how good you think you are and all that type of stuff. Like especially when you're in Cumbria, you get this sort of West Cumbria, you get this sort of medium-sized fish in a small pond syndrome. And we all know people like that. And and people who've never sort of experienced life outside of that, even just in the music scene, you get a real shock when you suddenly get exposed, because you suddenly realise, oh shit, like actually to be on them guys' level, it's like,
it's a lot harder than you think.
Such a big step.
But you need that though, don't you?
Oh, it give me such a kick up the arse.
That's the kind of thing. If you can get through that, then you'll be all right.
Yeah, totally. And I think
or break
it takes a long time. It took years. I mean, I only really feel like now I've capitalised on all that stuff. It takes years for it to sink in. It really does.
Because basically that's the education side of it. Then you've got to go out there and just do it.
Just do it. Totally. Yeah, that's it.
That's half the learning, isn't it? It's like when you've passed your test when you're driving. To go out on your own for the first time, you're like, oh shit, no one's telling me where to go, no one's telling me what to do.
You learn how to drive after you've passed your test.
I always felt that. I felt that. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
But you've just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you studied? Are you learned?
In what?
In music, guitar, qualification side of it? Or are you just more of a feel? I've got no qualifications in it either. So
no, I have no qualifications in guitar whatsoever.
But you know what?
Other than your experience,
I was going to say it. In a band, which is why I thought me and Kev work. I was just all like feel and like I'll just go with whatever comes naturally. Whereas he was the more technical side of it, and he knew all the theory and stuff. And I think for the band that worked really well because we were both like that.
Yeah,
we would have struggled. I think.
I don't know. I mean, I just do what I do.
Yeah,
there you go. Did you have lessons though, like to get to the basics and stuff, or was it all self-taught?
When I was at secondary school, I had a couple of lessons with a classical guitar teacher, but he didn't really teach me anything. You know what I mean? All he really taught. Well, all he taught me was like A minor to C to D minor to G. Sounds really lovely. And that's about it. That's about it. Beyond that, I mean, to be honest with you, to be fair to him, I don't really think that was his fault. He was a classical guitar teacher, and quite honestly, at the time, I was more of a rocker, right?
Yeah.
That was probably the extent of what he knew in that world.
Well, it was very Spanishy sounding, which I mean, I still love classical guitar. I do love that style, and I love Rodrigo and things like that.
There's a lot to be learned from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever style you end up playing.
Well, I mean, when we were playing in Spain, I deliberately dropped in some Rodrigo stuff in the extended solos. Extended solos. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah. Apart from that, it was all self-taught. I mean, I took quite a while off as well, and studied filmmaking for a number of years, and worked in the industry for a bit, and then got back into music. So I took quite a while off playing guitar.
Was before 13 Stars and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess from about 17 or 18 to about 21. I wasn't really playing very much at all.
Right. So you thought you might try something else?
Yeah, well, I kind of got into it. And then music sucked me back in.
How did it do that?
Because it got to the stage where I couldn't not do it.
You just got the urge for it.
I just couldn't not do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would find myself writing stuff and writing songs and putting together little things on, an old eMac with the built-in microphone and stuff, and layering shit up and playing with harmonies and melodies, and I just couldn't not do it, And then I got because I didn't have an electric for a long time, I just had a shitty acoustic for a while.
Yeah.
And then I got a decent electric. Well, I got a Tokai that was good and was right for what I needed at that point. And I got really into, other things like trapeze, the Glenn Hughes band before he went into Deep Purple and stuff like that. Particularly Mel Galley's guitar work in that I thought was exceptional. And for a long time when I was studying film, I wasn't really into rock music. I kind of, other than Radiohead, I couldn't really listen to a lot of rock because I just found it it left me a bit cold at the time, and I was really into classical. I don't know why. And then later on, I got really into really into heavy rock again.
Where did southern rock come into it?
Well, as I was getting into Mel Galley and people like that, I also kind of got into Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yep.
And through that kind of took me into Neil Young and also Steve Stills and Manassas and things like that, and the Black Crowes, and that just kind of spoke to me. I don't really think there's a massive difference between southern rock and normal rock, really. I mean, I just think it's southern.
Very nuanced, the difference, I think.
Yeah.
It's the overall feel of it, I think.
It is. Well, it's got a bit more folk in it. It's got a bit more...
certain attitude, I think.
It's got some Celtic stuff in there. You know what I mean? That's what it's born out of. It's born out of Celts in the Appalachian Mountains. Right? That's what it is, And you mix that with a bit of blues and you speed it up, and there you go. That's southern rock. And it's just got a feel to it that is difficult not to enjoy, I think.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, I love Steve Stills because he brings in Cuban rhythms and all sorts of stuff as well. He's a really interesting guy, really interesting guitar player. He's a finger picker from the get-go, jammed with Hendrix and all sorts of people. He's just, Neil Young is his own sort of guy, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's all about feel. There's not masses of technique there, to be fair, but he's just right on the button, and it's just natural evolution, isn't it, really?
It is. So is the music you're playing now like pretty much your ideal music? Are you in your perfect band?
Yes, because I have no constraints whatsoever.
Yeah.
The whole point of the band was that, to me at the time, it kind of looked like people were getting pigeonholed. Like, you're, I don't know, Mongolian nose flute, so you have to play only Mongolian nose flute, right? You're pop punk and you have to play entirely pop punk.
Yeah.
And that was, that to me, the greatest bands and the greatest artists were the ones that did loads of different things on an album. Perish the thought that you're gonna do Seaside Rendezvous next to, the Prophet song or whatever it'll be, or or you're gonna do Led Zeppelin 3 after you've done Led Zeppelin 2, I mean, oh my God, and then you're gonna go funky on it as well, and this is gonna be a difficult sell. You know what, bollocks, it's not a difficult sell, right?
Like Queen trying to convince a record company to put out Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, exactly.
After their previous stuff, it's like, well,
the writing was on the wall, guys. You know what I mean? The Beatles started it, really. With like
when the drugs came in, they totally changed.
Well, even before that, I mean, some of those early Beatles records, there's a lot more to them than you might think.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, there's an eclecticism there, and it makes it much more interesting to listen to an album. And it also makes it much more interesting to go and see it live.
That's true. That's very
You know,
true.
and dynamics. You know, let's take it right down for an acoustic song. Let's build it right back up for a heavy rock song. Let's play something on a fucking harp. I don't know. I mean, it all kind of it makes it a much more immersive experience. Because if you're just smashing away for 45 minutes without a break, I mean, at a certain point, ear fatigue sets in with everybody, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why you have to have some dynamics in your
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
Highs and lows. And
Exactly. You know, it should be like...
it's a show at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Even like a theatre show has a big intro.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has peaks and troughs, and then usually a big outro.
It's
You know
like
what
a
I mean?
symphony, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's a journey that you take the audience on.
Exactly.
But I don't know about you two, but I've seen bands where I've loved the album, then I've gone to see them live, and it just hasn't transferred onto the live performance of what I heard on the record, or sometimes the other way round.
Yeah. It's happened to me a lot the other way around. So I've seen a few bands where I wasn't that keen on the album or whatever, and they're brilliant live.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I've seen any bands where I've gone to see them and they sound nothing like the album. You know. But no, I can definitely see that. But yeah, there's you get a few surprises sometimes when you see a band, especially at festivals and things where you're not. You might not necessarily be there to see that band, and there'd be a band on that you think, oh, I wasn't. For example, when I was younger, when I went to download with Matty and Stephen from Heartbreak Remedy, before they were together, and Stephen's a huge sort of LA kind of Motley Crue kind of guy. You know, he likes all that. He likes all that stuff. So he dragged us along to that, and I think we got to the stage like 3 bands early because he wanted to get as close to the front as possible, and a very sort of
Doesn't sound like Steve's.
no.
It's like, you know.
a very sort of embryonic Biffy Clyro was on, and not really my thing, but he was incredible, absolutely amazing. That was back when he was, you know, played with his shirt off and very tattooed and sort of very before he sold out.
And a bit more commercialised.
Well, yeah, before all that, you know, so
he
he was definitely more raw and ready. I loved him, you know, and then saw him again years later, there again on the main stage this time, and he just turned into some kind of corporate pop rock kind of thing with
Did all the cliched performance things.
Yeah, I was like, what's happened? They were awesome. You know, they were just a 3-piece power trio when I first saw them.
Happens
You know,
so much.
yeah.
Success kind of sort of attracts.
Well, they go where the money is, don't they?
Well,
you know,
yeah.
unfortunately.
But even though you're making money, why should you still be taking direction from
I agree. Yeah,
people
totally.
above you just because they're sort of technically your boss, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when people start interfering in the creative process or have any say, or if you let them,
Yeah.
then
That's it.
that's when things are never going to be the
You've
same.
just got to have integrity as an artist, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's quite important from an early age to try and keep yourself in a position where you can remain true to yourself and creative and not have any, like you say, no limitations and just be able to be yourself. Because if that's what got you noticed in the first place, why would you want to change
I totally agree. Yeah.
Why would you want to
You're
change?
going to lose your core fan base, you know, if you change too much.
Yeah. It's
Well,
like
I mean, you can do poppy songs. I mean, there's no wrong with that. You know,
No.
You can go heavy, you can go light. I mean, it's just if you go hell for leather at one thing, I
Change
think it can
direction
be,
totally, yeah.
you know, it can be a bit.
well, it's like what you were saying. That was blatant, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
difference.
Yeah, I've got nothing. Like, you know, I'm all for diversity. You know, in music, and I can listen to an album that's every song's a totally different style. And by the same band doesn't bother me. You know, and it's like when people say, it always annoys me when people say, "Oh, I don't like the Beatles." You say, "Well, which Beatles don't you like?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
It's a very broad statement,
it's
isn't
like,
it?
it really winds me up when they say that because it just means they haven't listened to them. You know.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
that's all it
It does,
means.
exactly.
That's all
Yeah.
it means. You know. So yeah.
I don't like Led Zeppelin. Well, I can't trust you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. You might as well say you don't like dogs either.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And even Hitler liked dogs, right?
Well,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Come on.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
Well, going
Yeah.
back to your new album, have you? Is it all planned out? Do you know obviously all the songs are fully written? Do you know the album title? Do you know what the artwork's going to be?
I do.
Ah.
I'm not allowed to say.
No, no, I just wondered because some people do it in stages. Where I was the same. I would always have all that done.
No, yeah. I
before.
mean, the album art is coming together.
Who's doing it?
A very lovely young designer called Sadie Cockburn,
Oh yes, yeah,
who also
Abs-
happens to be Jackson's fiance.
yeah. I've seen her work. She's very good.
She is. She did the last one.
She did the White Raven.
Yeah, she
that was
did.
good. That was good. I
Um,
still got the T-shirt.
Nice. I love band T-shirts. It's such a corporate thing, man. It's like the ultimate in capitalism. It's like, yes, I'm going to give you money so that I can advertise your band.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's good. Isn't it?
I was it not we played Wildfire?
Yes.
And your T-shirt had just come out, and I was wearing it, and I kept turning around.
That's right. Yes.
And you announced it on the stage, like, our new T-shirt here.
Yes. As you can see, we guarantee it makes you more attractive. There you go.
I'm like, it doesn't. It really. But no.
Don't be bashful, darling. Come on.
But no, so it's all. You know everything.
Yeah. I mean, we know what it's called. We know what we've got a pretty good idea by this point of what the album art is going to be. We've gone through a couple of different iterations and different ideas. It's getting mastered next month.
Is Matt doing the mastering as well? Or are you sending it off?
We're sending it off.
Okay, right.
Because we want to master it for vinyl, which Matt can't do anyway.
Did you do that with the last one?
No, we didn't. We let Matt do it last time. But we want to do it on vinyl for sure. So we're gonna send it to Abbey Road.
When are you thinking of releasing it? Or have you not decided?
Don't know yet. It'll be later in the year.
Because it's kind of thing where it needs to either be before festival season, so you can take it out with you,
Exactly.
or after, and then do a tour towards the end of the year to promote it.
Exactly.
Exciting.
Autumn apparently is a good time.
Although you do have a battle because everyone tours in autumn.
Well, yeah.
But you've got to do it. You've just got to get out there and do it.
Well, I mean, it'll be what it'll be. I mean, I don't know what.
It's exciting when you announce it as well, isn't it?
What, that we're going to release
when
the album?
When you release, like, then here's the name, here's our new album sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cool. You know, it's a cool name. I like it.
Well, obviously you came up with it.
Did I? Yeah, sort of. Actually, somebody said it, and I was like, "Oh, that's
Is
a
it the
great
name of
album."
is it the name of one of the songs?
No.
Ah, interesting.
No, I don't do that.
Do you
Just like just like I don't like album covers that have got the band on the front. That to me is like
What, the band logo or the picture of the band?
picture of the band on the front, and it's just like no, nobody wants to see this. Nobody wants to see this. Come on.
So I've done both because Elected Evil was its own entity, but we didn't have a song called that. But Destruction Complete was a song, but that's because that's the concept of the album. So
yeah. I mean,
it works both ways.
I totally get why some people would do that. To me, it almost singles out a song as being the most important song, which
True.
Which to me is like not my thing. I mean, I always try to come up with reasonably abstract titles.
Yeah, I know.
That's the way to go. You know, fuck 'em in the head. That'll be right.
Keep them guessing.
Absolutely.
So your album that you did, when did
yeah.
that come out?
When? Last August, I think it was.
Was that like all original material? All
Yeah. There's one cover on there. It's a jazz standard,
Right.
but we've done it in our own way. It's a John Coltrane tune, but and we also did a sort of a rocked up version of Clog Dance, the violin tune,
right.
because it's technically still an original tune because John wrote it, you know. So
fair enough. Yeah.
and then the other 9 tracks I wrote. Yeah.
So it's mainly all you.
Pretty much, yeah. And it was written with that band in mind, which was nice as well. Really, you know, most of it came together after.
How did you record it?
We recorded it at Mungrisdale at I don't know if you know Brad Kavanagh.
No, I don't think so.
No, he's got a studio there called Big Moose Studios.
I've heard of that studio.
Yeah, we recorded it there. We did it pretty much live in 2 days.
So you could do everything at that studio.
Yeah. They mixed and mastered it and everything. Yeah, I mean the mix and mastering was done on a separate day, which was probably should have took longer. I mean, I'm very happy with how it turned out because they're great. You know, and Steve Norman's the guy that does the mixing and mastering. He works for Coda Audio. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like
He knows his stuff.
he's a bit of a genius, Steve. You know, he's got bat ears. You know, he can just hear everything.
What's the album called?
It's just self-titled. It's
right.
very unimaginative.
Is it on like Spotify and all the?
It's on everywhere. Yeah,
Alright,
it's on
cool.
all
We'll
the different.
We'll put a link to it in the show
awesome.
notes.
Oh, cheers. Yeah.
Have you got a song called Dean Newton?
We haven't. No.
See, when he gets big and famous, it'll just be DNT.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually, that's we kind of go by. You know, I always say it's the Dean Newton Trio, but the logo is kind of just DNT.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and as well, I say, you know, it's easier for the other 2 guys to say DNT rather than like you know, it doesn't look as cool. You know,
Come
Sounds
on,
like a drug.
do a cover of TNT by AC.
Oh, yeah.
TNT.
I like it.
Dynamite.
It sounds like a drug, and in a way, it kind of is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a very organic process. I mean, like I say, them 2 guys are all pros, and I shouldn't keep saying old, should I? But,
Older.
yeah, and so that they can just play anything, you know, at the drop of a hat. And
So all those songs on there are pretty much songs that you'd had ages that you just wanted to get out.
No, a couple of them I'd wrote because we talked about doing it, the project as a project, and so once I had that in mind, that I had a vehicle to get it out there, I started putting ideas together, and then once I got the green light, said right, we're doing this, so we're going to be a band. I just wrote them all very quickly, really, in the space of a couple of weeks, and then it was just refining them from there. But then even then, when we recorded them, because we're very much that sort of interactive, spontaneous kind of band, it might be very different live to how
It's
it
like
is on the
how
album.
would you capture that on a record?
That's it, yeah. And I mean, that's our ethos, really. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of what you guys do, really. You know, like we were talking on the journey here about how making records quite like a film. You know, it can be
definitely.
it's a similar kind of process. However, the way we do it, it's kind of a bit more of a snapshot. You know, you know, of a and I think again, just because a lot of my favourite records, going back to the jazz stuff and that, and even not necessarily even that, like 70s era Miles Davis, things like that, they just went in the studio and jammed, and what the result of that was and
more live takes that are just captured,
and that's not everybody's cup of tea, of
No,
course,
no.
you know, but I love that, you know,
that's
that's where it's at for me, you know. That's
There's something to be said
Against,
for it.
like
Yeah,
Rage
sure.
Against the Machine.
yeah,
Most of theirs was
totally.
just captured
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
studio session.
Yeah.
Just that's the only way you can capture that. Is to just
Yeah.
let them play it, record it, and just
Yeah,
then
I think there's
get
a
to work.
magic in that spontaneity, and there's also something I like about the abandonment of it. You know, where you can't keep going back to it. You know, like there's a couple of bits in a few solos and stuff I played where I think I would have probably changed that if I'd done it again, but I thought no, fuck it, because I like the vibe of the overall thing. You know, so there was no.
Yeah, there's a bit more authenticity to that. I
Well,
think,
yeah, it's
overall.
totally, and I know as well that I'm being true to myself, and I can go out and do that live. You know,
Yeah.
so. And people, I mean, obviously you get little hooks and things that you play that end up being, because you know, when you'll know yourself when you hear your own solo, for example, so many times, it just organically comes out when you play it live. You know, that I always, you'll start it the same way, you'll end it the same way, whatever, and because you just get so used to hearing that, you know. But yes, I mean, we're hoping to do another one this year at some point.
Yeah, similar sort of way.
Yeah, probably even more, you know, because we did we'll probably do the vocals afterwards. Did the vocals afterwards this time as well. They were put on top. But we did it was all live, but the guitar and bass were in a different room to the drums, and then we reamped the guitars. However, if we can, I'd like to do it all 100% live. Just with this band, it works. You know, I was saying that there was another project I've been involved with is the sort of rebirth of the Necromandus thing from the 70s. And we did an album like 40 years after the original one. You know, obviously I wasn't around the first time, but. And that was 18 months in the studio, you know, like over like, you know, not
spread out.
Yeah, very spread out, and you know, and that was very much a similar process to what 13 Stars do, you know. But we had other people involved not in the creative process, but we had a couple of guys managing and stuff like that. So I think what happened was, because as often happens with them kinds of things, you know, people's decisions don't always align with each other, you know. So there was a lot of decisions made that sort of inhibited things from happening.
Right.
And so I think my trio was born out of the frustration of that. I said, right, sod it, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to take all the control, and then everything's in my hands, you know. Like I say, even to the point of thinking, right, well, I'm going to buy the van, I'm going to drive the band around, I'm going to pay for the album, I'm going to do everything, you know. And then if anything fucks up, I'm the only one accountable, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's only sustainable, I think, for so long. I don't think that's I can do that forever, you know. If we do sort of get to play in, you know, some bigger stages and some tours and stuff, I don't know how much I'd be able to do that all on my own, you know. Maybe have to look at getting some.
You need some merchandise as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a few T-shirts, but
you've got CDs.
You've got CDs. Oh yeah, we sell CDs at gigs. I mean, that's been great actually.
It's probably the only place where people buy CDs
I know,
these days.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly at gigs that we sell them. We sell a few online and a few digital downloads and stuff, but yeah, physical copies just at gigs.
I was saying we had the Lancashire Hot Pots on that. Yeah. I've actually bought a band CD at the gig, but I'll never play the CD. I'll just listen to it on Spotify. But I just want to support the band, so I'll buy the CD.
I've done that as well. I've done that.
I kind of like don't like those words coming out of my mouth, but that's just the way it is. I'm not going to get a CD out of my car and put a CD in. I've just got my phone. I've got Spotify. I've got every band I could ever want. I'll just press play and just start driving.
I've just done that exact thing.
I can't argue with the logistics of that.
I had my whole iTunes library on my old phone, and got rid of it, changed over to Android. and I thought, do I import them all back on? It's all music I've bought, and I thought, I pay for Spotify. I use it for teaching, because I'm generally not against it, but I don't sort of. I'd rather just buy it direct if I can, But I thought, well, I'm paying for it. Why clutter my phone up with all this stuff if I can just use that? If I'm already paying for it.
I've got pretty much every band I've ever liked is in a long list of like a place of their entire back catalogue, and just go, oh, today I'm going to listen to AC/DC. Boom, whole back catalogue shuffle.
So so convenient, isn't
it? He's squirming a bit. He doesn't like it.
I can understand.
I wish it wasn't this way. I prefer CDs.
I prefer. You know what? I totally get it. It's very easy and. It is significantly more convenient. I get that, and especially if you've got one of those cars that'll let you do that, then great. But I don't know. In the van, we've got CDs. We don't have a thing to play a phone through it, so it's all CD really in the van on the way to gigs. The thing, Spotify is one of those really difficult things where I just don't think it's sustainable.
I agree.
Right, because if you're going to pay people peanuts, you get monkeys, all right? You know what I mean? You just, you get so little back.
It's gone up though, and it will. No, it has, and it will continue to go up. That has been reported. I mean, that was the big concern at the beginning because you got paid fuck all, it's like 0.02 pence per play, but it's gone up and it will continue to go up as more. I think they've hit like 100 million paid subscribers.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's only going to go up. So the money's going to go up. I mean, the artist is obviously at the bottom of the pile always, which is totally fucked up. But it will be more sustainable.
I don't know that you can. Can you live off what you can earn off Spotify?
I don't think so.
Eventually, you will be able to. And what the key thing is, those very influential playlists. If you can get certain songs or an album featured on a playlist, it can get millions of plays, and you can get money from it. And it is sustainable, as well as as a musician, you're never going to just be relying on that. So why would you think?
True.
You're always going to have your touring. Now is always going to be the priority.
Yeah.
That other stuff is like your album sales have gone, but that is going to slowly come back up in its place. Well, it's never going to completely replace it, but it is going to come back up.
You've just got to be on it now, I think, as well.
You have to be.
You just have to be,
I always use the AC/DC example. They Metallica, but they resisted to be on it for the first 5 or 6 years. But then somebody explained to them, if you're not on there, the next generation, that's where they listen. So if you're not there, you're gonna miss out. Yeah. Forget the financial side of it. The whole next generation, they're not going to hear you if you're not there.
But it's a different way, though, isn't it? I mean, I get it. I understand it. I think, compared to, I'm going to sound like Grandpa Granola, right? But, compared to sitting there with a gatefold sleeve, reading the lyrics and looking at the artwork.
I totally agree.
It's not even in the same.
No. But we're a dying breed. We'll be gone, and the next generation won't exist to them. The concept of it will be alien. They'll be like, you have to actually open it. You have to touch it.
Yeah, but maybe it shouldn't die.
Well, maybe it won't. I mean, vinyl's never died.
No. Well, that's
it'll still be there, but it won't be it'll never be the norm.
I listen to more music on vinyl than anything else at home, obviously, but I'm not out.
I've got it, but I just don't listen to it enough. I should. I really should.
Sound is analog. What
you can't beat that sound. You can't imitate it.
There's nothing as good. There really isn't. I don't care what anybody
which
says.
Is why it's never gone away.
Yeah.
I can see CDs going away quite easily.
When I first got back into vinyl again, I mean, I listened to it as a kid growing up a lot. I was just the first time I I think it was the White Album. I put it on, and I was just sat there and I was just like immersed. I just thought, oh my god, I forgot what music was meant to sound like. And it was just such a experience. When I listen to vinyl, that's all I do. I sit there and I listen to it. I'm not on my phone or on the computer.
Well, exactly.
It just becomes that's the sole activity.
And nobody does that anymore.
No.
Especially not younguns these days.
It's all background music now.
It is. It has become a background thing.
I don't know. Maybe there is a whole swathe of them that are. I don't know. I mean,
there'll always be a percentage of people who do that, but the norm will just be young kids just listen to individual songs. They don't do albums. They just do this song, that song, move on to the next. That's just the way it's going. I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, I see it with some of my young students who I teach. A lot of them, an album is a totally alien concept.
It's gone. It's gone.
Like it's just a
it's
song.
It's painful to say it, but it is. And you get artists that just go into the studio, bang out a few songs, and put them out. They don't put out an album. They just put them out on the digital platforms. That's it.
Yeah.
Just becomes a disposable commodity.
Well, it is. It is. That's what it's become, and it has become. I agree.
But that's not right, though, is it?
No, it's not right. But what can we do about it? You have to adapt.
Fight.
You have to go with it. At the end of the day, it doesn't stop you doing what you do and how you do it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But
you shouldn't. Don't let it bother you too much.
Oh, but no, I don't know. I think I kind of feel sorry for it. I feel sorry for
I
him.
feel sorry for like since Napster.
You know,
That's
because
like-
I mean, you just you whether wittingly or not, you're starving yourself of something that is important and has been for a long time. You know, and actually, you get a richer understanding of an artist or a sound or whatever. You know, when you immerse yourself that fully in that world, it's like being in a cinema. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's a different way of consuming that media,
Yeah.
and it's. I think it's important.
Oh, it is. I couldn't agree more.
Oh,
yeah. And
Unfortunately, the whole experience of like listening to an album the way the artist intended, that is gradually gonna. I don't think it'll ever completely go away, but it certainly won't be the mainstream.
No.
It's going to be about individual songs.
Mind you say that, but didn't Take That just release their album on tape?
I haven't.
Oh, did it?
Didn't
Yeah,
know
I think
that.
they
I
did it
didn't
on a
know that.
cassette. I
Well,
believe they did it
Who
on
has a cassette player?
Yeah.
Like you get cars now, they don't. The new ones, they don't have a CD player. They've got
No.
Bluetooth
Yeah,
and they've
that's
got
right.
an aux to
Yeah,
plug in your
that's it.
cable. That's it. That's a
That's it.
sign of trends. Why would car manufacturers sack that off if it was still viable?
I remember even as a kid. I mean, I was only born in 1990, but even when I was as young as I can remember, when a new piece of vinyl came into the house, it was a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
sat and listened to it. You know, it was like
Yeah.
an event. You know,
I remember at my auntie's house, she had loads of vinyl and like listened to Michael Jackson on vinyl with headphones on. Like
Mhm.
my mum was around at my auntie's just yakking on. I'm just on the floor, just listening
Yeah,
to music
yeah.
for hours, just
Yeah.
immersed in it. And how many young people do that today?
no, when you
To be
get
fair,
them-
I don't do that anymore. Like you
No.
were saying with that vinyl, they just
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I very well. I'm in the car. I do a lot of driving, so I do get. But at home,
I think that's
I've
where
always
most
got-
people listen anyway.
there's
is in
always
the
a lot of
car.
stuff
car,
going
yeah,
on. You
yeah.
always I don't people necessarily have as much time to just sit.
that's
and do.
the problem, isn't it?
I think the car is probably the most.
I agree. Yeah.
Is probably where most people listen to music.
I think so. Yeah.
Because that's just
It's the same with podcasts now. That's become a
Mm.
massive
Yeah.
thing where it's like driving,
yeah.
at the gym, walking, running, walking the dog. That's where on a mobile device.
the gym. Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
I've seen.
Do
the
people
I've
still
seen
go to the gym?
well, yeah, they do.
Yeah, well,
I've seen the
started
statistics.
Going, yeah, I started going at the start of this year. Yeah,
Oh, is it a
interesting.
new year, new you?
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, it started last year. That
You don't
but,
look like you need to go to the gym.
Well, last year was it May? I weighed 4.5 stone more than I weigh now,
Wow.
and I had long hair. As
Yeah,
well.
that was just the hair. You just got the
Yeah,
hair.
yeah. But no, and it kind of happened very organically. I just decided to lose the weight, and I wasn't. I didn't look fat really, you know, but I just knew I was carrying excess weight around, and I've always been sort of fairly broad and stuff. But then, so yeah, that happened. But then I actually got a bit too skinny, which I know. I mean, that's not a you know. But and I thought, God, I didn't really like it. You know what I mean? So. So I thought, and it was always that thing of, you know, I don't want to go to the gym. It's full of meatheads and all that, you know, and that, and you know, you have that sort of trepidation, you know.
Yeah.
But sort of, I just thought, well, no, I need to man up and have some balls and just go, you know. So I went, and then because I've got quite a addictive personality, it's like, you know, I
You got
went.
addicted to going.
Well, I went. It's not that. It's just when I make a decision, I just do it. You know. So I decided, right, I'm going to the gym. So like, I went from not at all to 6 days a week. You know. So I've been doing that.
No
since
wonder you looked a bit skinny.
So no, that was before. You know, that was before.
right,
it, yeah,
right,
so
right.
yeah. So, but I'm just like that. You know.
Like guitar.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing with guitar. And
There's
it's
several things I think you should never try. Just
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Don't try heroin ever.
No,
No,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's a bit Moorish. So I hear, but no, it's just a way. Yeah, it's the same thing with guitar. You know, very obsessive. You know, if I've always had that sort of. If I don't know something, or if there's not necessarily if I don't know something, if there's something I want to know that I don't know, or if it's something I can't do that I want to be able to do, I can't rest till I feel like I can do it, or I know what it is.
At least try.
At least I know what it is. You know, that's the thing. Because I know growing up, you'd see a guitar player like, I haven't got a fucking clue what he's doing, you know, like, and that would haunt me until I
Yeah.
just all I had to do was know what it was,
Yeah.
and then at least then when I knew, I was all right, you know. So it's the same kind of thing with that, and it still happens now sometimes, you know. I'll hear something and I'll go, the hell was that, you know, and I get.
It was so depressing though when you found out about drop tuning, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
And you were just like, how is he doing
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you went,
yeah.
oh, right, yeah, you detune that string and you
Yeah.
can play one finger chords.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, there's been a few moments like that.
Was it a big deal to cut your hair off? Because you had a lot of hair.
Again, not really, and I thought it would be because you get attached to it, but
Just go and set the drum kit.
yeah, but it becomes part of your identity, doesn't it?
Wow.
And I'd had long hair like right through, well, from about the age of 12 or something like that. I shaved it all off when I was 16 in an act of rebellion, and grew it straight back. And
Yeah.
it got longer than
What
it ever was.
teenager thing to do?
Yeah, it was right sort of to my ass basically when I cut it off. But again, I don't know. I think it was just that the first time round, I wanted long hair. It was that thing of being cool and being
Yeah,
a rock
it's a
band.
musician
and all that.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then what happened was I was tying it back all the time, and I realised for 4 years I'd never worn it down.
In your photos, from certain
yeah.
angles, you can't tell.
No.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? I thought why have I got long hair now? And it got to. I think we had that heat wave last year for like a month and a half or whatever, and it really pissed me off. It was like, and I thought, and then I just again, once I decided I was going to do it, it come off that day.
All right.
That day. And ironically, my girlfriend's a barber, and so I was the worst advertisement for her business, ever, because I'd be walking down the street with a beard and long hair, and she's a barber, and she was very reluctant to have me cut it off, surprisingly, but now she prefers it. So, yeah, but yeah, so it's weird now. I can't imagine ever going back now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, once I decided that was it, really.
Well, I mean, getting up in the morning just going,
Oh,
Your hair's
that
right.
is great. I have to say that.
he has
that
to
is-
style it, he has to...
Yeah. No, it's
Fucking kidding, are you?
showers take 5 minutes now.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
It does what it wants to do. I let it do that. It's fine.
Have you always... how long have you had long hair for?
Probably about 20 years.
Right.
I've never seen you without long hair.
No.
No. It just is what it is. It grows. What can I
Yeah.
tell you?
Was it a music-related decision to have the long hair,
Um,
do you think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, I really love, I guess most of my musical influences at one time or another had long hair, I guess. I always wanted to look like Cat Stevens.
But it's become part of your
too-
image, because you've done it so long, it's become part of your image now.
It's just me, isn't it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If I cut it, it'll grow back. It's fine.
Did you get much comments, Dean, when you cut your hair? Did you get much people like, whoa?
I still do now because
Did you just do it? Didn't tell anyone?
Yeah, basically. Well, I sort of put it on social media afterwards, after the event. But yeah, it's weird because even still now, I bump into people who I've known all my life, and they don't know who I am. Or it's weird in supermarkets and stuff. You might be stood behind someone, and they turn around and look at you, and they just turn back around again,
Yeah.
and then they do the old. They do the old
Double
quick-
take.
Wait a minute.
Is that you? And yeah, so
It's funny if you're like talking to someone and after 5 minutes they go, sorry, excuse me, who are you?
yeah, and I think because I've lost the weight as well, so you can in the
Right.
face and
You're
stuff.
like a different person.
Well, I get that a lot, and so that's it actually gets a bit annoying after a while. I know that sounds like the worst complaints to have, but
So you lost 4 stone.
4.5 stone, yeah.
Over
yeah.
how long?
Not very quickly, in about 3 months.
Has it affected guitar
Yeah.
playing or vocals?
I've got more stamina at gigs. I know that.
Right.
I'm not as worn out as I was.
Right.
And yeah, just health wise, it's affected me definitely. I don't think it's made my guitar playing any better or
No,
worse.
no, no.
I don't think. Well, not that I've noticed anyway. Nothing significant, but yeah, just definitely more energy in general. I used to sweat a hell of a lot. I don't sweat as much now on gigs.
Yeah.
I still do, but yeah, just more energy and just not as I recover faster as well. That's another
right.
thing,
Yeah.
So yeah, we all suffer from that sort of giga mortis, as I like to call it. The next day, and I tend to find out that's not as bad as it used to be now.
Right.
It doesn't take me 3 hours and 5 cups of coffee to wake up anymore. And that, so yeah, it's definitely helped in that sense. Yeah.
Cool. Have you still got, because obviously you've just fresh out the studio, you still got on that high of like hearing your new songs pretty much done? It just made me think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, see, I always think the end of the finishing of an album is a kind of a real conflicted time, really, because it's so unknown. You're happy with it, you think it sounds great, but what if nobody likes it?
Well, there is that. And I always used to love the drive. All of us in the car or the van driving back, listening to the final mixes of the first mixes of all our songs.
I mean, you know, it's
does not make you think back to like your demos when you first went. You go, wow, we fucking did it. This sounds awesome.
I knew how they were going to sound before I started.
Oh, there you go.
Or at least I had a very, very good idea.
The other, I suppose, the other negative could be we've got to wait 3 months before anyone's going to hear it now. So that's kind of a bit of a I want people to. Oh, it's done now. Just put it out tomorrow.
Well, no, I mean, yeah.
I get that you have to
it
have the
takes
build-up,
what
though.
it takes, you know. I mean, yeah, I'm very happy with it. I think it sounds great. I think it's a forward movement for us, and I'm happy about that.
Good.
I think it's simultaneously our heaviest and our lightest album, so I'm happy about that.
Sounds good.
It's got a lot of stuff on it that I don't think is standard in music, particularly in our sort of area. But yeah, at this point, it's like, who the fuck knows?
Did you have a laugh while you made it?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy being in the studio. I
love being in the studio.
I prefer being on tour, quite honestly. But yeah, I enjoy being in the studio. I find it. I do like being in the studio. I like the whole
Creative process.
Yeah, but I just, you know, in the same way that I kind of fell out with filmmaking after a while, I like the spontaneity and the immediacy of a live gig, which you can't get.
That's true.
Recording wise.
Yeah.
I would love to record an album the way that Dean did his. Quite honestly, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
If I could find a studio big enough that we could have Andy making as much noise as he can and the rest of us making as much noise as we can, then I would love to record an album that way.
Yeah, I've seen, I like that idea of like if you're all like a setup like that where this session the drums are going on to the sort of the master track, and then the next time we'll do it again. We'll be focusing on the bass, just doing some live takes and getting all the best bits from it. That'd be really lively.
Just do it as a backing track, you know,
Yeah.
and then you know, build it up from there. But I would love to do it that way. I mean, I know that's how Rival Sons do it, isn't it? Is it Dave Cobb, their producer?
I don't know.
I think it's Dave Cobb. Yeah, but yeah, very cool guy. Plays a Gretsch, nice. Yeah, and I'd love to do it that way. But I mean, on this one, because we tried to record it ourselves before that, and mainly me sort of trying to record it the way that I had it in my head, and I just couldn't get the quality right, which is why we ended up going.
Well, I think with Matt, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, he is sensational.
Some people would consider it expensive, but when you get the results,
well, I
can't
mean,
argue with it.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot more on this album than we have on any other album ever, and we deliberately took our time. We made sure that we got the exact sounds that we wanted. We made sure, you know, if this has to have this feel, then we're probably going to want that. You know, we spent a lot of time concentrating on getting things right.
Yeah.
Did you use a click track?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
No.
Well, I suppose with a live sort of thing, you can get away with that.
We it's funny when we went in the studio. Brad had said we videoed all our songs and sent him them. Just we'd rehearsed them and sent him just so he had an idea of what the hell we were about, you know. And he says, I've written down all the tempos for the click track. I said, you won't be needing that, you know. And,
yeah. I mean, I think we dropped, like, on average, if it was something that we'd played a lot of, I think we dropped maybe 3 BPM. It wasn't a lot of speeding up and slowing down.
I think it was quite alien to me because, I've done quite a lot of session stuff before, so I'm very versed at playing along to a click. That's not a problem. But just as a band, you know, we did the Necromandus thing the same way. That was multi-track and stuff, but we didn't use a click because we wanted it to have that 70s kind of vibe,
loose,
you know,
lively.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember somebody saying to me afterwards when it came out, oh yeah, you can tell it was. They said something like, you know, it was great, but you could tell it wasn't played to a click. You know, I thought, well, that was a bit of a. I took it as a compliment, but I don't think they meant it as one. You know,
Yeah.
And I think because I'm a bit out of touch with a lot of modern techniques for recording stuff, I didn't realise how much that can inhibit you as well. You know, but
having a click track,
not having one.
or not
You know,
having
yeah,
one.
because
Right.
a lot of things can be triggered by that, and all that,
True.
and that was all new to me. I didn't know any of that. You
I
know,
suppose it's certain songs where it drops and there's not much going on. The click track can be what keeps it going till the next.
oh
bit
yeah.
sometimes.
No, I
Just
totally
depends.
get why you would use one, 100%.
Depends on the music. I think it depends on the music.
Yeah,
To be fair,
yeah.
that dictates whether you
Yeah.
do.
It
Like I
does.
couldn't imagine what we do without it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
I think sometimes the perceived idea is that it can lack immediacy, which I can get my head around. I can understand why people might think that, but actually, I've not found that.
No.
To be fair, our drummer is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Our rhythm section is amazing. All those guys, Andy, Jackson, and Steve. They are shit hot players, right? So I mean, they, even if we weren't doing it to a click, they wouldn't be dropping a lot of
No.
BPM anyway.
No.
But it's difficult because I remember we had a bit of we didn't have an argument, but we were playing
Discussion.
Yeah, we were recording the scratch track, and Steve says, "I think this is too slow."
We've had the same discussion and in the same studio,
Yeah,
doing the same thing.
and I said to him, "Well, I wrote it, and I think it's perfectly fine." And he went, "Yeah, but I think it." And I was like, "Right, okay, all right, let's try it. Let's try it faster." And it was like, "Yeah, no, actually, Steve, you were absolutely."
Was this
bang on the
before you
money."
went to the studio?
No, this was in whilst we
Did
were
Matt have
scratch
an input?
tracking.
Because he helped us on. Yeah, it was the last one. He helped because we
Maybe.
kind of thought we decided on the tempo. Matt was like, "Do you think this could be a little bit faster?" And then other songs like, "This could be a couple of BPM slower." And we were like, we
Yeah.
tried it, and it just felt right.
Yeah.
Do you know what? He's
I
right.
think it was mainly Steve, to be honest. And I said, "Well, let's try it 3 more or whatever it would be."
It's
And
weird
then,
how much of a difference it can make.
Oh no! And then we tried it another couple more, and then we went too fast, and then we came back.
I think vocals can dictate a lot of that as well, because
Yeah.
sometimes it can feel a bit rushed if it's a
Yeah.
lot of words. He's like, I'm talking too fast here. I'm
Yeah.
not breathe. I can't
Can't
breathe.
spit them out.
Yeah,
I have enough of this when we do it live. I'm not doing it here.
Yeah. Well, you always tend to play things faster
You do,
live.
yeah.
As
Yeah,
well,
you do. I
know?
mean, you rehearse a set, and you go, we've got half an hour. That's half an hour. You play it. Oh, we played 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Some bands are extreme. Like look at Black Sabbath.
Oh,
like,
no.
you listen to any of their live stuff, and it's. I mean, probably down to the copious amount of drugs they were on. but they're so. I mean, I love it. The energy is incredible. But
Well, I think like Paranoid, our studio version is so slow,
I know,
and ploddy.
and everybody
Yeah.
plays it quickly, But yeah, you watch any of their live stuff, from the 70s on
It just
YouTube
feels
or whatever,
right.
and it's so quick, but in a good way, Yeah.
Everybody plays faster live. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
just-
do,
It's
totally,
just
yeah.
inevitable.
Sometimes, like especially earlier on, it was from nerves. He's like, "Oh my god, I just want to get through this song."
Yeah.
Well, everybody's nervous. I mean,
But-
if you're not nervous on stage, like even some small party, then I don't think you're really in it. You know what I mean?
I used to get nervous before.
Yeah.
Right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once we were like halfway through the first song, as long as everyone was sounding all right, I just forgot about that. And just
Yeah,
got on with it.
yeah.
But there should be a bit of apprehension,
Exactly,
a bit of
yeah.
tension,
Always.
excitement,
Oh, I don't-
all muddled up together, kind
I
of
don't
like.
mean like quaking
No.
there for the whole set, but I mean
No.
like there should definitely be some kind of like
Anticipation.
yeah,
Yeah.
and after it takes maybe a song or two to get into it,
Yeah.
because I mean let's face it, like playing live is basically like lying naked on the floor
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
sign on you, a sign on you saying "kick me," right? That's
Yeah.
basically what it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like saying,
You're bearing your soul,
"Look at this is."
Especially when you're playing your own songs that you've
Yeah.
written and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people have paid to see.
and you
Absolutely.
want people to love it. You've got,
Yeah.
yeah, and if they don't, I want to know why they
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because what is it about playing live? You couldn't explain it to
It's the
someone who
greatest
hasn't done it.
Greatest drug, the greatest
Yeah, like a
drug.
drug is how you describe it.
It's a massive high. If you've got a crowd right there and they're a good crowd, my God, there's nothing like that in the world. It's good for you. It's exercise, and sometimes they pay you for it as well, which is even better.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like hearing people sing the words.
Yeah.
I remember like being in Europe,
Yeah.
where we'd not really spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
My arms. I just remember, bloody hell, this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, how you can't describe that to someone.
No.
No, you
It's like-
can't. No. It's like it's a really abstract concept. But
Sometimes you have to sort of punch yourself and say, "Oh, just focus on what you're doing here. Don't get too carried away."
I don't know. I mean, I just usually because I've got that much to do anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm not really. I don't know. I mean, I quite like just interacting with a crowd, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be as much fun as anything, you know. I love a heckler. I love hecklers. Hecklers are amazing.
I can't remember actually having
Oh,
an actual heckler who
I get 'em
said something
all
specific.
all the time, and I love them. I love them.
Like
know.
a stand-up comedian. How
I
do you deal
love
with it?
Yeah.
You know, things like, oh, get a haircut. Well, I would, but it might be as shit as yours. You know what I mean? You know, I love hecklers.
I
They're
love watching comedians
fantastic.
deal with
Oh,
hecklers.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
when they like the heckler thinks they've got the upper hand and then they just crush them just
Yeah.
with words. They just
That's it.
shut it.
Absolutely.
They're a
Brilliant.
professional at that. You know, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I
to
also
try and
like
take them
just turning someone who's not clearly not, but obviously they're from another band, and it's your mission to sort of
Yeah.
get them going,
them
get them
on
doing
board.
something.
Yeah.
on. Best gigs for me are the ones that just I can't remember. You know, like
Just
you
a
get,
blur.
well, it gets to the end of the gig and I know I've had a good time because you're off somewhere else.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
You're just enjoying the moment.
yeah. And I mean, I'm not. I'm absolutely not equating myself with Jimi Hendrix in any way. But he said that, like, you know, he feels like it's coming from somewhere else. You know, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not spiritual or anything like that. But I know what he means. You know, like
This stuff has been channeled through
well,
you.
yeah,
out.
the guitar or whatever's a conduit just
Yeah,
to get it
yeah,
out
yeah.
there. You know, and
Yeah.
at the end of a gig, I know I've had a good one where I know I haven't thought about anything. You know, because for me, I play the best when I get out my own way.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
get out my own head. I'm not thinking about anything.
Yeah.
Like your tone has to be right and all
Yep.
that stuff.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
When sometimes on them special gigs where everything comes together, you've got a brilliant audience, they're loving it. It sounds good. You feel good in yourself. And it gets to the end of the gig, and I think, fucking hell, what happened there? Like, it's gone. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't even think about what song was next.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just and they're the rare ones. You know, but they're the ones you live for. They're the ones
Yeah.
you know, you're perpetually chasing down all the time. You know?
Remember
Feels like
someone-
it lasted 5 minutes,
Yeah,
and you've
yeah,
been
yeah.
out there for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
and then somebody will have videoed a bit of it, and you see, and I watch it back, and think, like, I can't fucking remember.
Yeah.
Honestly can't
Yeah.
remember it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
But that's the high for me. You know, the same kind of thing. It's like, that's the euphoric state you get in,
yeah.
and there's nothing like that. There really isn't, where you just literally have no recollection of it, but you feel incredible. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're right though.
Yeah.
I think when you think about what you're doing, then that's because, especially singing and playing at the same time,
Yeah.
that really will fuck you
Don't,
up.
oh, yeah, just do
It's-
it. Don't think
when
about
you
it.
when you're like, oh, what's the next
Oh,
lyric?
totally.
It's like you're fucked. That's it. You know what I mean?
I always equate that to a bit like football. Like if you like if a striker's one-on-one with a goalkeeper, if they're thinking what am I
Yeah,
going to do,
Totally.
if they just do it, it just happens.
Well, you're not in the
naturally.
moment then, are you? When
Yeah.
you think you'd
You're
remove
overthinking
yourself
it.
from
Yeah.
the situation. It's
Yeah.
like when I get this question a lot, and I used to ask this question a lot when I was studying a lot. I get it from students when they say things like, you know, what are you thinking about when you're improvising, or you know, are you thinking about using this scale over this chord? It's like, no, you know, as soon as you do that,
Yeah.
you're not thinking about, you're not being musical anymore.
I think you're using everything you've learned and all your tools and your ability
Well,
to not have to think about it
exactly.
and just do it.
Charlie Parker nailed it, didn't he? That's a famous quote. He said, you know, master your instrument, learn all your shit, and then just forget all that and just play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
you should
and-
be able to
and-
get to
and
a
it's just-
point where.
And I never used to believe that when I used to talk to great players and stuff, and they would say they're not thinking at all. I used to not believe them. I used to be like,
Yeah.
bollocks, fuck off, you know. and you know, and like, you know, and but I totally get it, you know.
Yeah.
I 100% get it, you know. There's the less thought, the better, you know.
Yeah.
100%.
Going back to the live thing, like trying to describe it to someone, I always feel like it's like you go on stage and you're creating this energy and you're sort of pushing it out to the people in the crowd, and they're sort of reciprocating it back to you in their
Yeah,
own way,
that's it.
and then that's how it kind of goes back and forth.
Mm.
And that's
It's yeah. I mean, a good crowd is an amazing thing. You know, we've all had those crowds that I like to call dementor crowds, right? You know, like
or no crowd.
well, yeah, but you know,
Just
like
suck it out, yeah.
Harry Potter, where they
Absolutely.
just suck the
Yeah.
joy out.
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
We've
yeah.
all had things
Yeah.
like that, you
Yeah.
know.
Doesn't
and
matter how hard you try.
yeah, and you give them
them
100%, but you know what? If you're giving 100% and it's a good crowd, that 100% is going to go a whole lot further, right?
Well, that's something we sort of learn is just whatever the sort of the crowd is, good, bad, indifferent, no crowd, just do what you do.
Mm.
Give
Yeah.
give the same performance. I just imagine that it's just a full house and just play
Yeah.
it like that.
I like
Absolutely.
what Francis Dunnery said about that. He says, "Look, we're gonna have an amazing night. If you have a shit night, that's on you.
yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
I like that.
we're gonna have a fantastic
I like
gig,
that.
and you know that's our experience of it. It's gonna be incredible.
Do you know what? That usually can like do it for any crowd. If they just see that you're up there enjoying it,
Yeah.
doing it for yourselves, just doing your thing, then it comes across. And
Absolutely.
they kind of get sucked into it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can tell
Definitely.
straight away when somebody's just going through the motions.
Oh, yeah.
Straight
Yeah.
away. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
obvious.
Any function wedding band in the country.
They're just waiting for the paycheck.
Yeah.
They're just there for the money.
Yeah, there's only so much you can play, Mr.
And they do get
Brightside.
paid a lot of money as
Yeah,
well.
they do.
They
yeah,
do.
yeah,
They
yeah.
absolutely do. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can, there's a lot of artists who do stuff like that on the side, cover bands or
Oh, yeah,
function
yeah,
bands,
yeah.
to keep their
Pay the
original
bills,
thing
yeah, pay-
ticking
yeah.
forward.
Yep. Yeah.
But
At what cost?
Yeah. They're so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have got to shill your soul to do that, really. Which, you know, I mean, fair play if you want to do that. That's fair enough. And actually, you know, playing other people's stuff can be a really important learning curve.
you
And
can learn a lot
Yeah,
from
And
it.
I think we all started out in covers bands, didn't we?
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was,
Totally.
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah.
the apprenticeship, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's right.
And you learnt how to be with other musicians. You learnt what cut, what didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, how you had to behave at a gig, what the most important pedal on your pedal board was, which was the one that says tuner, right? You know,
Yes.
it's you know, you learn all those things through that cover band thing, and then you maybe take it somewhere else.
Well, I think the longer you do it, the more of yourself comes out.
Mm.
Or it should do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Both individually and as a band, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I think, yeah, because we never did covers in 13 Stars. Well, I mean, we do like 2 or 3, if that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We've never really done many covers. We've always done our own things. You know, I think it's fair to say that in the West, you know, there is a scene for original music, but there's also a real big hunger for covers bands.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you know, we knew that if we were able to keep a crowd with us who were used to seeing a covers band, and we were able to keep
Yeah.
them there without playing them something that they'd heard 10 million times before, then we must be doing something
Yeah.
reasonably
Strength of
okay.
your own
Well, that's
song.
it.
Yeah, you know, that was kind of that was great to kind of think, well, yeah, we're getting through to somebody.
Yeah,
You know what I
a
mean?
lot of older bands started off as cover bands, and then they started
Yeah,
adding
that's right.
their own song in, and there's 3 songs in. They drop a couple of covers, and then they eventually did it that way.
You probably find that your own songs go down better than the covers anyway. You know?
Yeah, well,
that-
it's something
Yeah.
new, isn't
You
it?
know,
Yeah.
that's-
You know what I mean?
I find that definitely. I mean, with the trio, because we've only got sort of one album's worth of stuff, we still do quite a few covers. But albeit they are very obscure. You know, that we're not knocking out Mustang Sally. You know, but and a lot of it's stuff that you wouldn't normally attempt as a 3-piece as well. You know, but we do Steely Dan tunes, for example. you know.
Nice.
Yeah, as
Cool.
a 3-piece. You know, but what was I going to say?
That is difficult.
Yeah, it is hard. Yeah, no, it is. It's difficult.
That's a
stuff.
challenge.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, no, but as much as I love playing that, obviously you enjoy playing your own stuff more. But I tend to find that our own stuff just goes down better. I think it's maybe because they can sense you're more invested in it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a definite, you know, like you say, it's kind of getting people on board with it. And once they're on board, then you're onto something. You know, I mean, I've always admired you guys for that, because you never went down the route of because you see some bands who they have a cover set and then they have their own stuff that they'll do at different gigs. You know, but you just like, no, this is what we're doing, and you do that at every gig. And as a result, you know, when I was younger, like 13, 14 and stuff, and gigging in pubs around sort of Maryport and that, where I live, you know, you'd always get the old farts saying, you know, play something we know, or you know, to be popular, you've got to play, you know, songs people know. And that was drilled into me for a long time, and I knew it was wrong, but at the time when you're young, you just want to gig and you want to get out there and play, and if that's they're the only gigs, then you do them. But it took me a while to realise that, you know, where it's at artistically, obviously you've got to do your own stuff and get out there, and that's where you guys have like had a bit of not a head start, but a jump on a lot of bands, because you've just done that from day one.
Well, yeah, I mean, we never wanted to do covers. You know, I mean, we've maybe done 2 or 3 over the years. I mean, nothing major, really. Ohio.
Ohio, I knew it was a Neil Young song.
Yeah, we've done
But
Ohio.
also, you're a
remember
bit
which
older,
one.
so a lot of people when they're younger have to rely on covers because they haven't really written
That's
anything
right.
of
They've
their own.
got
no life
They haven't cut their teeth.
experience.
They haven't cut their teeth
Yeah.
songwriting. Whereas if you're a bit older and you start, you can just
Yeah.
start doing your own stuff.
That's true.
I mean,
That's
I
true.
think, you know, if you can play a song competently that's been a hit, you can pretty much get a crowd off, right?
Yeah.
That isn't a massive challenge.
Not
but
even
if you
that
can get
competently these days.
Yeah, well,
sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can get a crowd off playing a song that you've written,
That's where it's at.
that's where it's
That's
at.
true musicianship, that, isn't it?
Well, it's a completely different feeling. You know,
it is.
You don't feel like you've shilled yourself for that either.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just really lucky. I ended up with a bunch of fantastic musicians, eventually.
There's a lot of, when you see like bedroom players or these YouTube phenomenons playing other people's music, and you just think, I wonder if they could transfer that to stage. But mainly do it in front of people, but then could you write something of your own, anything similar to that?
I often think that with the critics as well, like when you get people slagging off great musicians, and you think, well, show me some of your stuff then. Like it's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, not that you don't have to be great to have an opinion, of course, but I do think there's a lot of that put your money where your mouth is thing. So there needs to be more of that. Especially that's one of the to open a potential can of worms. That's one of the downsides of social media, isn't it? That everybody's got a voice.
Yeah.
Everybody's a critic, and everybody's got the right to have that opinion.
But it's the authenticity behind it. Can they back it up? Like, if I want to see like a comedy workshop or an actor's and the person doing it, like, what films have you been in, or what stand up do you do? And like they've got no sort of pedigree, but they're teaching it. It's like, how does that work?
I don't know. I mean, I think obviously as musicians, as creative people, as songwriters, we're obviously opinionated arseholes, right? Because
that's true.
Because we just are, right? We can't help it. But then I think, I said it on the last day in the studio. I said, it's fine, except for when I think the Venga Boys have sold more records than I have. It kind of, it makes you kind of go.
You have to separate the pop world from anything like that.
Well, true, but you take my meaning. I mean,
I know what you mean.
Coldplay have sold a lot more records than I have.
I don't mind Coldplay. I've got nothing against them.
I'm not a big fan. I think lyrically they're absolute bollocks. But anyway, that's.
I like I think it was the second album or something like that, and I've never liked
Parachutes, and then
I didn't like that. It was the
Russian
one,
Blood to the Head.
Yeah, I think that was one I liked. Yeah,
the one that had
Scientists and stuff like that, and Scientist and that,
and the Clocks and that on it.
Yeah, that was a decent album, but I think they just sold out totally after that. They played at Glastonbury, didn't they? And they realised they could write them anthemic tunes where everybody could just sort of sing back to them, and that was it after that. For me,
I don't see
anyway,
them as I don't like hate on them as much for doing that, because where they've ended up isn't too different from where they started. Whereas for me, like the Chili Peppers is a prime example. Their early stuff is so raw and powerful, and then when you get to like Californication, they've kind of just found that sort of niche kind of pop mainstream kind of sound. They haven't really changed a lot since then. It's almost when like the last few albums, they're just going to go into the studio and look, that generic sound that they found. Let's just press that button.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
let's just apply that to this.
I don't know. I mean,
that's just my opinion.
I
haven't rated much of their recent stuff.
Frusciante, I think when he left, that was a big turning.
Well, that's
point.
true. That certainly affected things.
Yeah. I think Californication was a good album.
Yeah.
Stadium Arcadium, is it? I thought bits of that were great as well.
Yeah. That's when it started going downhill, or a bit samey for me. They kind of found this pocket where they just stuck into it. They haven't really been pushing any boundaries or taking any risks.
Yeah, but when we say that, the next breath we're saying, but we love AC/DC. They haven't changed in 40 years. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? When you sound like AC/DC, you don't need to sound like
they kind of get
else.
a free pass because they invented it.
So
I'll let them off on that one.
Good point.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we can all agree that the Venga Boys are shit.
Yeah.
No argument from me.
Yeah.
You can still achieve a lot if you're not that good. Unfortunately.
The cheeky girls, yeah.
But I always like, even on the radio, if I'm flicking through, like, come to the commercial shit, you turn it over, flick next one. Like, you listen to something like Radio 2 or Classic FM or something that was recorded in the 70s. Even though it's not my thing, I'd rather listen to that right now because there's nothing else on.
Yep.
And I have a much more appreciation for it because there was no Pro Tools.
Yep.
There was none of that bullshit. And I know this was real people playing real instruments and real vocals. And everything was like, there's no editing. They couldn't.
No. Well, there
if you
is
fucked
a bit,
up, you just do it again till you get it right.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit, but it was a ball ache. You had to get a razor blade out and stick it together.
those
and all
fucking
that shit,
cutting those tapes.
Oh, man. When you hear the stories about Roger Waters doing the intro to Money, with the cash registers. Now we had to stretch the tapes to get them in 7/8 for the time. It's crazy the way that they had to just MacGyver every situation.
I mean, those guys who cut the tape don't even have a job anymore.
No, true.
Well,
it used to be a specific job.
Tape up,
marking the tapes and cutting them and putting them together.
It's funny. One of my old teachers, he took his son into college, and and he had his young friend with him, and they were walking along past one of the practice booths, and there was a guy playing drums, and he said to his mate, he said, "Have you seen that? That's what's it? That's one of them things they used to make drum beats on." It was a drum kit, It's like, that was like, oh my, that was He said that he turned. They were only like 10, And he turned to his mate and said, "That's one of them things." And his mate laughed his head off, as if they made drum beats on one of them,
Oh my God.
There was this amazing drummer sitting playing like some funk stuff,
Yeah.
And but yeah.
But like every sample they ever hear in any of their music was originally hit on a real instrument, just recorded.
I remember somebody told me, I don't know if it's true, but when Rihanna sort of first came out, that song, that was Umbrella or something like that.
Yeah.
Every single part of that track is a Apple loop.
That does not surprise me
from
at all.
From Logic, just there's somebody. I'm sure I watched a video somewhere where somebody just recreated the track by dragging Apple loops in,
God.
and she just sang over it, and that was it.
Pop trivia, that was initially offered to Britney Spears, and she turned it down.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Didn't think it was that good.
Oh, well.
Turned out it was number one for weeks,
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
I remember.
It was a big hit. Yeah.
And I remember here because it fucking rained a lot when that song was out. I remember that.
Yeah.
Whatever year that was. Yeah.
Penrith, isn't
yeah,
it? It rains a lot regardless.
But yeah, we are all musical snobs, really, when it comes to that stuff,
Yeah.
We just are.
I suppose I was reading that some bands opened up, like Aerosmith got to a certain point and started having other songwriters come in and help them
I
write
heard
their
that.
songs.
Yeah. Slash said that, and I read Slash's book years ago. I remember him saying that, like, because he's very good friends with Joe Perry and stuff.
Yeah.
And they'd had a period. Obviously, they've split up and fell out so many times, Aerosmith. But he was a bit pissed off that they'd had somebody else write all these. I can't remember which album it was now, but somebody wrote all the songs on it for them, and he was a bit pissed off that had happened. But at the same time, he was just happy to see them back out on the road playing type thing, But yeah, I think they had that quite a bit. Aerosmith.
I was listening to a podcast with Jake E. Lee on. He was in Ozzy Osbourne for what he got no credit whatsoever. He wrote.
Happened a lot in Ozzy's band. That
Yeah. It's Sharon Osbourne was like, no,
well,
because she was obviously protecting legacy of Ozzy.
Frank Hall, who I played with in Necromantis and Secure Unit, he was in the original incarnation of the Blizzard of Oz, the band.
Right.
Him and Baz Dunnery, Francis Dunnery's older brother. They were Necromantis was signed to Tony Iommi's label, and they were managed by like Don Arden, who was Sharon's dad. And he was the big guy,
Tough
at the
man.
time. Yeah, and they. Oh God, lost my train of thought. Yeah, sorry. Don was also the manager of Violinski, which is John's.
Oh right, yeah.
thing. He managed them, and
Blizzard of Oz.
Blizzard of Oz, well done. Yeah, Blizzard of Oz. Yeah, so they had that project, and they'd started recording. They had some stuff down, and then Sharon was on and off the scene at the time with Ozzy. And then when she got a clause in, I think she took him, put him in rehab or something like that. And then when he came back, she'd got a new band together, and all the ideas that they'd written and stuff. They never got any credit for any of them. Another guy I know played keys on stuff like Diary of a Madman and Mr. Crowley and that.
No credit.
Well, no, because she brought a totally new band in and re-recorded it all.
Right.
So but the original recordings are still out there. But yeah, it's just the way it goes. She totally.
I mean, Jake E.
took
Lee was
control.
saying that like he's just glad he did it because you're not going to turn that down. But it was kind of the way. What should have happened is he should have been signing a contract before to say, I'm in this band for this project, and I'm gonna. And if I write a song, I get a credit and stuff like that. But it was very aspects of it very shady.
She was very business minded from the get go. It was
to
all
be fair,
about
he wouldn't be where he is without her.
No
Not a chance.
He wouldn't be still alive, I don't think.
But I've heard some people say he's not really that much of a musician. He can sing. He didn't even write the lyrics in Black Sabbath.
No, Bill Ward wrote all the lyrics.
Yeah.
He came up with the melodies, huh?
He did.
I'm sure he had a lot to do with the vocal side of it. But
he did write the melodies,
even if all they were doing was following the guitars. But yeah.
yeah. But
Which they did on some,
I've spoken to Bill Ward because he still keeps in touch with Frank from Necromantis, and he did a review of our album, and he's he's a super intelligent guy. He's so switched on. He's the absolute opposite of Ozzy, And I mean, not that Ozzy isn't great in other ways, but
it's the drugs.
Well, yeah, but to know Bill, I mean, they all did their fair share of stuff back in the day, but yeah, Bill does like a podcast in California. He does his own thing there, and he gets some big guys on there. But yeah, I think I get the impression he was very much the creative force in that band. Well, in terms of lyrics and themes and all that kind of stuff. Obviously Tony Iommi was a big. He wrote the riffs. He was a riff man. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Geezer was an amazing bass player, incredibly. Probably the funkiest rock bass player I've ever heard. You know, like heavy rock as well. You know.
Yeah. It's quite often on those old records, though. Do you not notice he's just slightly out of tune sometimes?
Oh, totally.
Well?
You can't play along with them.
And it's
you know, you can't. Yeah. I totally get. Yeah, I think back then they didn't use a tuner, did they? The bass player went, "He's an open E." The band tuned up to that, and off they went.
It was more about the attitude and the feel of it, then, wasn't it?
Yeah, we usually tuned to a piano, didn't you? Because that was usually what was about
in the studio. Yeah, that's true.
Which is why some of those Thin Lizzy records and Rolling Stones records are like. They're not E flat, but they're not E. Yep. They're somewhere in between. You know what I mean?
Whatever that piano was tuned to at the time.
I had that problem with it when I had to learn the old Necromandus tunes. They were in the cracks. They weren't in beat. They were in
like half a tone.
It was so hard to pick. And Baz Dunnery, was an incredible guitar player, and his stuff's hard to play at the best of times. And to figure some of it out with him when it's slightly out of tune, and I couldn't ever quite get my guitar to be where his was, So some of it's just my very best guess, there and he's not around to ask anymore. So
going back to the creatives in the band, like Steve Harris of Iron Maiden. He writes pretty much definitely all the lyrics, but sometimes the melodies for songs and stuff, because that's just the way it started. Like, I was a fan of Iron Maiden for years before I found that out.
I didn't know that, to be fair. No.
Nice.
He's the main songwriter.
Did he come up with the gallop?
Yes.
Oh well, that's it.
Yeah, he came up with the gallop.
That's their thing.
Yeah.
But did you write Randy Rhoads?
Oh yeah, massively, yeah.
Good player,
brilliant player, and I liked him as a person as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
he super nice guy.
And he was younger, and his head was very switched on. I remember reading in Ozzy's book that he, wherever they were, whatever city in the world, Randy would seek out local guitar teachers to have classical lessons. You know, and says Ozzy would come in off his face on whatever. And be Randy sitting there with some old guy.
Yeah,
he
just ate, slept, and breathed it, didn't he?
He did,
just all the
no,
time.
and he was so sort of meek and there was no ego there at all. But he was.
He just wanted to play.
But he was a beast, And I mean, who hasn't played Crazy Train? Who hasn't learned that? Who hasn't learned that riff and played it?
I
know. But no, he was. I mean, he was very. He made no bones about being very heavily influenced by guys like Van Halen. You can definitely really hear that in Randy's playing, but yeah, I mean, Randy's my favourite Aussie guitar player, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I
think I would agree. Yeah. He has certainly had his most unique and his own style.
Yeah, I mean, like Zakk Wylde's very unique, got his own style, but that's just not my thing. That's
his pinch harmonics drive me up the
Well, it's
wall.
not even that with me. It's his tone. He uses that. Phaser on
chorus,
on everything, on absolutely everything, and it's just too much for me. That's all.
It's like Kirk Hammett and his wah.
Oh god, it's that surgically attached to his right foot, isn't it?
He used to be so much more dynamic in the early. Like you'd hear a bit of both, and then he just got to discovered the wah. From the Black Album onwards,
became a crutch, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you can hide a lot of things with the wah.
You can.
That's true.
That was one of my biggest criticisms. Well, I went to I think it was Download. I can't remember how long ago now. A good few years ago, and I just noticed that was kind of when I started moving away from that stuff. Really, when I just realised that every band that came on, every guitar player was just on the wah for every song, and I was like, I think Alter Bridge were on. And I thought, I think Miles Kennedy's a great singer, and even Mark Tremonti, he's just every solo, and I thought, what's going on here? Why is this happening?
So, do you think it's a live thing to sort of cover stuff up?
Well, you can hide a lot of stuff.
I think there's some of that going on, yeah. But I think it just becomes a crutch,
a wah solo on a song can be a good thing.
I mean, I love all this old 70s funk stuff and the the meters and all
but
that.
You can have too much of it, like anything.
Hendrix, obviously,
absolutely.
We were on our third record before we had a bit of wah.
Yeah. Most gigs I don't even take one with us. I don't even bother.
Oh no, I don't. I don't own one.
Yeah, and
now I do. No, I do, but I don't use it. Yeah,
I'm the same. Sometimes I do take one and I just forget to use it on a gig. I don't even step on it.
Yeah,
I moved away from having a big pedal board. Like
me too.
We had a flying day in Belgium, and then we were flying straight on to Ibiza for the Hard Rock Hell Ibiza thing. So we had to just basically take guitars and bare minimum of stuff. So I think I took along the foot switcher for my amp or something. Maybe I took the Bad Cat, I think. You know, the attenuator thing. Anyway, and then I just had a tuner and a treble boost, and that's basically what my pedal board looks like since. Yeah. I've added a delay, and that's it.
It's very liberating, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
So little can go wrong.
I know.
You know?
But you've just got less. Again, it's that thing of getting out your own way.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about it, you know.
I saw a band. I wish I could remember the name, at the Brickyard a few years ago, and this guy had so many pedals.
Yeah.
He spent most of his time
that's the problem.
And it's like he wasn't enjoying the show. He wasn't even he wasn't participating. He was just all about these effects and timings and.
I mean, it took me a long time to get my head around the fact that actually, on the record, you might use a phaser on that for 30 seconds, but you don't have to do that live, right?
No.
Nobody's that arsed if you haven't done that.
No,
you know what I mean.
No.
It took me a long time to get to the point where it was like, I am not going to carry something that's this big and weighs a metric ton to every gig.
If you're doing it right, someone they shouldn't notice anything
exactly.
like that. They
Right.
should just.
Yeah.
Well, if your tone sounds good as it is, why
Yeah.
would fuck it. I mean, I don't mind them on record, and I don't mind the occasional phaser every now and then, but generally, all I need is a tuner and a treble boost, and that's it.
I started off I sort of learned the hard way. I started buying pedals, and then I started looking at other guitar players and what's their set? What do they have? And then I started realizing that some guitar players actually have a really stripped. I only play rhythm, so I don't need a lot. So in the end, I just got I got a Mesa Boogie. Just you can really channel the sounds on them.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just had a tuner and a noise gate, and I just let the amp do all that. I don't need anything. I don't need anything to. You can get the sound from there. If it's going through a good PA, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, an amp, you shouldn't really. I know there's so many overdrive pedals out there. I mean, my God, there's you could cover the entire of some small continents with overdrive pedals.
Just clones of.
I remember the sort of light bulb moment when I thought, I don't need this. If my sound's good from here, for me as rhythm, that's all I need.
Yeah,
This is to cover up if you're playing through a shit amp to try and make it sound better.
Exactly. If you've got a good amp, you don't need.
It took me a good few years to work that out. I was like, oh my God, why am I wasting my time with it? It's actually making me sound worse.
Yeah. No overdrive pedal sounds as good as a cooked amp.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah,
True.
that is true.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is, when it was made, who made it. You know what. Special fairy dust went into it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
An amp that's cooking, that's in its sweet spot, particularly if it's valve. But then again,
valve. I prefer valve.
So I have a soft spot for a solid state amp that I own, but which we were talking about in the car. It does one thing really, really well. It's shit for everything else, but it does that thing. It does that thing better than anything else. But no, I mean, if you've got an amp that is a good amp that works, that is doing what you want it to do, it'll sound better than any pedal ever.
Best solid state player, in my opinion, is Dimebag.
Yeah.
I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was odd for him to use that sound because not many other.
What did he use? Was it
Randall. wasn't it?
Randall, yeah. But just solid state and not tube was very.
Oh, no, was it Crank after that?
Crank.
No, it was Randall. Well, it was Randall.
He
at some
definitely
point.
did use Randall. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a famous clip of him doing a Randall workshop on
I think I've seen that,
in a guitar shop or something.
Yeah.
And he's having so much fun.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Playing.
I love the way he's very unschooled, but it doesn't matter at all because he must have had good ears because he could pick stuff out. You know.
Yeah.
He had just a great attitude to teaching stuff to people. You know, you tend to find that actually with guys who don't really know much. They're like, here, it's this. You know, there's
it's
no
the enthusiasm
secrets,
that sort of comes out of them.
There's no secrets. You know, but going back to solid state amps. Going back, Alan Holdsworth, he always used. I mean, he had that sort of liquidy kind of. I don't know if you're familiar with his playing, but he had that sort of liquidy tone. It almost sounded like a synth, you know. And, but he always used solid state amps. He never ever used valve, and it was just for reliability. And he had that tone's incredibly hard to recreate, and you can't really do it with a valve amp because it's that sag and that natural compression you get doesn't allow for that to happen. You know, you need that immediacy. You know,
for me, it was when I went to a tube amp. That's when I realised I don't need anything else to go over the top of it. Especially with I don't know about, for me, with Mesa Boogie, it's got so many, you can scoop it and you can, so many ways you can customize the sound that eventually it just worked. Whereas other ones, I felt I just couldn't, it took me a while to get that sound.
I don't know, I mean, as I say, this one solid state amp, which is my main practice amp at home, because I live in a building with neighbours, and cranking a valve amp's not really not going to work out well. But I mean, it does what it does really, really sensationally well. I'd love to gig it. I wouldn't rely on it as my only amp. You know what I mean? I love what the 63 AC30 brings to the party. I mean, it's just an amazing amp, and the Tupelo if I've got it at that particular gig. They're all different sounds, they're all different colours, they're all different textures. You know what I mean? It's nuanced. I think there's space for everything really, or there should be anyway.
Yeah. So have you got what plans for this year? Obviously the album, but anything else?
Well, we're in London next month, and then we're at Kendal with Wagons and bits and bobs after that.
Yeah, when's that?
I think it's February the 28th, I think.
If I'm not doing anything, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Not been to Bootleggers for ages. I love that venue.
Yeah.
It's a good venue.
We played there together, haven't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
That was good, that.
That was a good night, that.
I had to use your amp, didn't I?
No, you used my cab. It was your
use your
amp.
cab, yeah.
Yeah, because you had your PV, didn't you, at the time? Yeah. It was nice cab, innit?
It is.
Crunchy.
Yeah.
30-watt speakers, man, they get...
But if it's... That obviously hit Chris's sound at there. It's brilliant.
Chris Edgar's sensational. He's a great sound guy, and he's a really nice bloke.
Yeah,
as well.
he is.
I've got a lot of time for Chris, and it's often the case. You find that the best sound guys are the ones that are just really down to earth and easy to work with.
Yeah,
the ones that are arseholes are just probably going to do a shit job.
Yeah, the ones where you don't want to piss them off because they'll make you sound shit.
Yeah.
Well, they have the capability. It's like, don't piss off people who serve you food.
Yeah.
I mean, we once got a sound guy fired. Well, not me personally, but yeah. I mean, it was on that gig because he was pissed and he did a terrible job.
Yeah, nothing worse.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, we've had some interesting times, Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
The longer you do it, you have these stories, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You got anyone you want to share with us now?
Breaking down a door in Italy to get our drummer out of a toilet was an interesting one.
You stuck in it before your show?
No, it wasn't before the show, but he was stuck in it, and we had to get the landlord in this little Italian apartment out because we weren't going to kick his door down without him being there, and he couldn't open the door, so he...
Why was always a little Italian?
Hey, what is going on here?
And he was just like...
You broke my door!
And he was just like, well, kick it down.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he didn't have a lot of... He didn't... Bless him, he didn't speak a lot of English, and he was just like, kick it down, and we were like, okay.
Was he locked in or was he just passed out drunk?
No, he was locked in.
Oh, right.
He tried the spare key and everything. I mean, Andy's going to hate me because this story goes around a lot, you know what I mean? But yeah, he has...
Carry on.
Well, he has the top cost of room trash of any of us for this bathroom door.
Okay, right.
And subsequently, he's not allowed to lock a bathroom door.
He's got to shoot the door open.
No. He can close it. He's just not allowed to lock it.
Okay,
That's all
fair
it is.
enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some other interesting. We've had some interesting times.
So, your newest member,
Steve.
what's his surname? How do you pronounce his surname?
Revere.
As
in silversmith in the Revolutionary War.
So he replaced
Ryan.
And when was that?
That'll have been March, I think.
March 18.
Yeah.
So fairly recently then.
Yeah.
But he seems a really good fit.
Yeah, he's great. He's sensational.
Where's he from?
How did you find him?
Okay, one question at a time. Right, he's bless him. He's from London.
Wow.
So his nickname is Shandy because he's a shandy bloke. We found him because when we were doing a Hasty Dixie tour, Ryan couldn't do some of the dates, so we got Steve in as a depth player,
right,
for those shows. And he was brilliant. And, things weren't working out with Ryan for one reason or another.
Was availability one of them?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
But I won't.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I don't want to go into it too much.
Fine.
But yeah, it came to the point where it was probably better if we found somebody else, and
Right.
Steve was up for it. I mean,
Great.
the poor bastard had 2 weeks, and we were off to Spain on a tour. So you know what I mean? It's like your first gig as a full-time member of 13 Stars is going to be Barcelona.
Baptism of fire.
Well, no, it was a beautiful crowd, beautiful gig, really good one. I mean, he was bedded in by the end of that week, no bother. I mean, he's a great player, he's a great musician, he's got such a good ear. He frees you up, you know, because Andy's so good and Jax is so good and Steve is so good. You know, you can free it up. You know, you can just go for a little jam, go for a little wander musically and see what happens.
So you guys are all up here, and he's all the way down in London.
Well, he lives in Manchester.
Oh, he lives in Manchester, right?
Yeah.
So he comes up for rehearsals sometimes.
Yeah. We got the Pit.
Yep.
In Whitehaven.
Yep.
With Johnny Branch and Grebe, and yeah, we usually tend to rehearse just before a tour, or if we're going to record or something. Most of the time, I think we're not. It's not that necessary for us to rehearse, but sometimes just to polish it up a bit.
Yeah.
If it's been a while, you know.
Bit of a run through, loosen it up. So he's obviously lives in Manchester. So because you've not got a lot on this first part of this year, have you really?
No, we've been concentrating on the album.
Yeah.
So I mean, the deal is that if it's down his way, he'll tend to meet us there. If it's up our way, then if it's down past him, then we'll pick him up and drop him back.
Yeah.
And if it's up our way, then he just gets on a train or whatever.
Yeah.
He's very easy to work with.
Saw some of his videos. He's very enthusiastic, isn't he?
He is. Bless him. He's a lovely.
And he's a great player.
He is a great player.
I was watching some of the stuff, some of the live stuff.
He's a sensational guitarist, actually, as well. He's really, 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 really gifted guitarist, which is a shame because you'll never get to see that. But, well, actually, that's not true. You can go on his Steve Revere Guitarist channel, and you can see how sensational he is at guitar. But
Producer Tek will make a note of that, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you, Tek.
People can check it out.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really cool guy. He's very easy to work with. As I say, I think he had the most difficult job on this album, and he did wonderfully well.
So this would be your first album, like collaborating actually with him as part of the songwriting process.
Yeah, particularly on. I mean, a lot of these songs we'd been road testing for a while.
Right.
But there were at least 2 that I can think of that were pretty damn new, and that he, because usually I'll have an idea of what I want the bass line to be, give or take, and then it's like, well, try that, does that work? You know, it's the same with drums, it's the same with everything. I have an idea, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then we look at figuring something else out. But yeah, he's just very easy to work with, and a lovely man.
Complement each other then, playing wise.
Me and Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole band complements.
Yeah,
the whole band.
Yeah, but in terms of like bringing the new member in, it
oh
just
yeah,
works.
he's great. He's great. I mean, he's
Did you have ideas and stuff for the new stuff and for the album?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I mean, he's very enthusiastic. He's like a puppy dog, right? Which is nice.
It is.
It's nice when
it's refreshing.
Yeah, when we're all a little bit jaded.
He's like the young pup.
Yeah, and we're all a bit miserable, and you know, it's sometimes I forget that he's done a different slog to us. You know what I mean? Like,
what has he done previously then?
He's been in quite a few bands. He's done his shift, like, you know what I mean. But like, I forgot that he'd never been on a European tour before when we took him to Spain.
Right, yeah.
And you know, he rang me up and he was a bit worried about this, that, the other, and I was like, well, don't worry about it. As long as you've got your passport and your credit card, there's nothing you can't get out of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
pretty much.
You know, it'll be fine. We've done it before. We kind of know what we're getting into most of the time. And if something weird happens, we'll just deal with it.
You're all
then.
just got to stick together, haven't you?
Well, that's it. That is the key thing, and that's why bands. I think you can understand why some bands can fall out because you do spend so much time with each other.
Yeah.
But
it's like a relationship, isn't it? It's like when 2 people live together.
Yeah.
Like, so some people back in the day, people used to get married and then live together.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what, you live together first and then work out do we get on?
Yeah, exactly.
Living in each other's pockets, literally, do we get on?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a 4-way marriage, isn't it?
It is,
Or a
yeah.
5-way marriage, you know, depending on how many people are in the band. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think everybody warmed to Steve really quickly. I mean, we'd already warmed to him anyway when he was on tour with us before. You know, we already knew he was a great player and that he brought something to the show for sure. But you know, when he joined full time, I mean, he kind of put himself on his own, like a self-imposed kind of probation period,
Right.
where he said, you know, just in case I'm not happy, you're not happy, we'll just call it a probation period until a specific gig. And I said to him at that specific gig, well, this is the end of your probation period. Are you happy to stay? And he was like, yeah, I was pretty much happy to stay as soon as I got in the van going to Spain. He was like, well, okay, fair enough.
That's the acid test, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really lovely guy, and he gets on great with Andy and Jax, and he plays really well with Andy and Jax, you know.
Well, I think the chemistry is just as important as the musicianship, isn't it? Long term, if he's going to travel and stay in bands and stuff.
They've got a groove, you know. Those three, they really have a groove. I mean, Jackson's kind of more like, you know, like the Stones. It's Keith Richards that kind of sets the time.
Yeah.
Jackson's kind of like that.
Right.
So if Andy starts a bit fast, which, you know, all drummers do, I think, or he starts a bit slow, it's Jackson that'll kick him on. But between the three of them, they just gel in this really funky, interesting way. It's really cool. Really cool.
Does he have his moments to shine on this new album?
He's Jackson.
No, the new
Steve.
guy.
Yeah. He's got some little funky little scales, and I mean, how much shining can a bass player do? Right? You know, unless you've got Flea on your album. Or something, you know what I mean? I think he plays some really lovely lines. He also got into the fact that because there's such a variety of songs on the album, with very, very different feels, then, you know, like he has a semi-acoustic bass that's got tape wounds on it, which has got a really different sound. And he used that on a few tracks to kind of give it more of that feeling, you know what I mean? He got really into that. He's just a great player.
Yeah.
Really lovely guy.
He just seemed like a good fit, just from the outside.
He is a
just
good
tell.
fit.
Yeah.
He is a good
That's
fit.
what he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all had fun with our driver on that Spanish tour. Driving around the middle of Madrid, and he says, and he's another southerner. So he's like, oh, I've got no power.
Oh, I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
And it's
yeah,
like,
right,
I can't get it out at 20 miles an hour. And it's like,
I know what you mean.
and he's in the middle of Madrid, and we're all going, fuck. If we're stuck in the middle of Madrid, we are fucked. We've got another 3 dates to do over the next 3 days. We are fucked. And then he goes, no, actually, it's all right. I've got the limiter on.
Good.
I thought you were going to say, I had a bottle stuck under the...
I forgot.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I remember who your driver is.
Yes, yeah.
I can totally picture that.
He's a lovely man.
Oh, he
bless
is. Yeah,
him.
he is.
He's a lovely man. But we do have lots of fun laughing with and at him.
I like how he just adopted the band's style and everything.
Yeah.
didn't
Oh,
he?
yeah.
He got right in there, didn't he?
Oh, we had a great time. I mean, this time as well, we drove to Spain, which means you got to do that awful drive through the centre of France, which is just the worst. And on the way back, we got a ferry back from Santander to Portsmouth. What a brilliant journey that is. I mean, well, other than Jackson, who got seasick.
Oh.
But
There's always one.
yeah, but I mean, it was just wonderful. You know, 23 hours later, I'm on English soil. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend 2 days looking at really boring flat bits of France that are named after World War I battlefields, thinking, why were you fighting over this? What was the point? Just no.
Give it up. Just let them have it.
Just this is ridiculous. But yeah,
Have you got plans to go back to Europe?
yeah. Well, we want to later in the year for sure.
As part of like promotional for the album stuff. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to go back to Spain. We need to do Spain
You
more.
made some good contacts out there and that now.
Yeah, we need to do Spain more extensively. We only did 5 dates, and I think we need to do at least 2 weeks in Spain because it's massive. And then Europe will split it into two, so you'll do kind of Scandinavia, Holland, and bits of Germany, and then the other side would be the other side of Germany and Austria and Switzerland and Italy, I think.
You still working with Terry RPM?
Yep, absolutely, yep. Terry's still our manager.
She works hard.
She does work hard.
Do some good stuff for you.
She is excellent.
Good person to have in your corner. A good team to have.
Yeah. And Heidi's really good as well.
Oh, Heidi as well, yeah.
And Josie as well.
Right.
Yeah, they're all really good. They're a really cool company.
What are the main things that they help with?
Heidi is sensational at organisation, which, considering we're all a bit shit at it, is fantastic.
It's a vital part of it.
She's
Musicians are
really good at logistics.
Yeah.
Really good at logistics. So is Josie as well, actually. So yeah, I mean, they just keep us on our toes.
It gets to a point where you couldn't do it. We get to a certain point level, and you couldn't do it without that side of things. It just gets too hectic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
At the end of the day, you want to be able to focus on just what you're doing. You being in the band.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you don't want to be. You want to know where you need to be, what time, and that's it.
Yeah, you want to be able to have a clear head and just be able to perform. Just do what you do.
Ideally.
If you don't want to be bogged down with stress of like the logistics side of it, and this is not happening, and what about this, and like you need somebody else. Let somebody else deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always always stressful being on tour anyway. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, half the time you don't know, unless you're in travel lodges or something. Half the time it's kind of a Russian roulette of hotels, shall we say?
Yeah.
Which you can get some beautiful ones. I remember we were in a 5-star manor house just outside Preston, and then 3 days after that, or before that, I think it was, we were in some funky little flat that had Japanese plumbing and smelled of sulphur. You know what I mean? It's just like potluck, really.
I've had someone like, "Fuck this, I'm staying in the van."
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Back in the early days, staying in the van just so because we couldn't afford to stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
Our van's a bit small for that, unfortunately.
Ah, right. We had a long
Otherwise-
wheelbase, so it was a bit better.
Yeah, no, ours is short. I mean, we did all fall asleep the first time we went to Europe. We fell asleep in France somewhere because there was so many road works and diversions in the UK. It was ridiculous.
Oh,
It took us like 15 hours to get into France.
God.
but in Massive Wagons, the first 2 times they recorded at Axis, they just camped.
Yeah, they camped, didn't they? Yeah.
One of them was in October.
Yeah.
That's keen.
But they're hardy boys, aren't
Yeah.
they? You know.
But the last time, they had a nice hotel. I think it's the same hotel that we had the last time we were there.
Oh, we just went to the Restover Lodge down the road.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which was all right. They've updated it and stuff, and it was a reasonable price, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
And then everything's on your doorstep, innit? You know what I mean?
Good old Doncaster.
Yeah, you do a violent sneeze, and you're at Matt's door going, beep, hello.
I love, it's all the same for most studios, where, from the outside, you think, have we got the right place? This is an absolute dump.
Yeah, this is a coral. I don't know what's.
Yeah, there's a call downstairs. And then you go in and you go, wow.
Yeah,
Which is the way it should be, because you do not want anyone to know what's in there.
Yeah,
right,
exactly,
yeah, that's right.
exactly.
But
Especially-
that feeling when you first get there and you're just like, oh, I can't wait to get started. But then, I've said this before, then it's day one, drum sounds, dung, dung, dung. But you've got to go through all that.
Yeah, I mean, we scratch tracked first, and then we
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Andy had tuned most of the drums right anyway, and they were big drums, so it was a bit easier. Pitch them up, big drums, little sticks, pitch them up, job done.
Oh, so I was going to say, you're going to be on vinyl for this one. The first time you'll be on vinyl.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
That'll be cool to hear.
Yeah.
Is it as expensive as people say it is?
I don't know yet. I'll let you know.
Okay.
That's
That's one thing I keep hearing is that's why some artists would like to do it, but it's just a bit more expensive.
Well, I mean, we're paying a fortune to have it mastered at Abbey Road, so.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, we got the guy who did the Temperance Movements album last year, which was our favourite album last year. So I'll let you know.
You just sort of sought him out and said, we want him.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I mean, originally we were looking at a few people, quite honestly, and we were looking at a guy in America who had produced some of my favourite albums of all time. Well, mastered them anyway. And we got a quote back, and it was, I mean, there's expensive, and then there's like
excessive.
and then there's like no. So at that point, we were kind of like looking around, kind of thinking, and I'd always thought, you know, Abbey Road, I'd already always noticed that they did mastering and stuff, but I hadn't really put two and two together with this guy, and as soon as he did that, it was like, I told Jack, so I was like, well, this is the guy who did that album, and he was like, right, let me think about it. So he went away and he thought about it. I just said, look, I'll do what you want to do. Right? If you think we should do this, let's do this. If everybody agrees, let's do it. I'm happy either way. And he came back and said, that's what I want to do. I've checked it with the boys. That's what we all want to do. Fine.
So it's been sent off for mastering now?
It's going on February the 18th, I think they're doing it.
So you're going to be going back and forth with Matt still a bit about, or is everything done as far as that's concerned?
I think everything's done. I think he sent it to Abbey Road, I think.
Oh, right, okay, right.
Because we had a week's grace, basically, because we had like 3 hours left of that day, or whatever it was, the last day we were there. We could either say anything that we needed to change. There was nothing we needed to change. So he just ran it off and sent it to them, I think.
Right.
I don't know.
That'll be exciting to hear that when it comes back.
I'm a technophobe, you see. You know what I mean? Unless it's got valves in it and capacitors and things. This is magic. Witchcraft.
Yeah.
So you'll be recording your next album in the same way, same place?
I don't know. I mean, the studio they've got now that they're talking about moving, they're in like a farm. It's a beautiful place, but they're renting it off the owners next door.
Yeah.
But with Steve's job, they supply sort of PAs for things like F1, and they're all over the world all the time. So they were talking about moving to Liverpool. I don't know if they're going to take the studio there or what. So by the time we come to record it, it just depends where they are. And I mean, I'd love to work with them too again, because I really like them and their ethos, and they kind of get us as a band. Once they kind of realise what we, because they were very much sort of in the modern way of doing things, where it is more, done with clicks and multi-track and stuff. But then once they got the vibe, they were really into it as well, So I would really like to use them again in their studio, but it totally depends on their situation at the time.
Have you got any other options then, if that doesn't?
Not really. No, I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
Brexit.
Oh no, don't say that. Somebody had to mention.
Sick of fucking hearing that word.
Yeah. But no, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Like I'll see what's on the table really when we get it recorded. When I've written all the songs. Yeah, I mean, I've used other sort of local studios and stuff for different projects, and never been that happy really.
It's got to match up to your expectations, haven't it?
Yeah,
you know how you want it to sound.
And I like the fact that them two are younger guys as well, and they've just got that enthusiasm for just for the technology side of things. That, like, I'm like Jose, I'm a bit of a technophobe,
Yeah.
And well, I'm not, but I am in terms of keeping up with the technology trend. I'm terrible at that. So the fact that they've got such a working knowledge of modern techniques, and they're so quick and efficient, I'd like that vibe again. So if we can't have them guys, just somebody similar, basically, who are willing to sort of go on the journey with us, if you know what I mean, and do it the way we want to do it, rather than trying to sort of push us into doing it a certain way.
Yeah. Have you both seen Sound City, the documentary?
Oh,
I have, yeah.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it was a good documentary. That, with Rick Springfield and
Yeah.
I
remember we purposely watched that the night before we went into the
Really?
studio. Just
Wow.
It just sort of got you. But that's the thing. Then the anticlimax of the next day, I was doing hitting drum
Oh,
sounds
yeah,
for like an hour.
yeah.
Going, no, it's just not.
Yeah. Apparently, this I was listening to another podcast recently with a guitar player I like, and he's just done an album at Muscle Shoals,
All right.
And he said it's remarkably not cheap but inexpensive to
Not
record
as
there
expensive
because
as
it's
people
out in the
think.
middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't get anybody there, so they're desperate for your custom.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and you can go and record.
Where is
in
it?
It's in
Alabama, isn't it?
Alabama, yeah,
Right.
right in the middle of nowhere, yeah, yeah. But it's not. It's like the nearest city is like Birmingham, Alabama, which is a good, 40 miles or something,
Mm.
So and for they're desperate for people, So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying we're going to go over there.
No,
But yeah, them all kind of big mega studios.
Why not?
It will. Well, who knows? But it is viable, for people to do
Yeah.
that these days,
there's certain
Yeah.
aspects of like being with Matt at Axis that remind like it feels like you're doing everything that you've ever seen any other artists do. Like various documentaries or films that you've seen where you're like, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like when the red light goes on and you're doing your
Yeah.
takes, and like when I was watching the drum takes with Steve. And I was in the control room just watching, and he was like, "Just do that again." And he was getting pissed off, and he was trying to get, like anything you've ever seen in any documentary is like, but there's moments of that, like where you're getting to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember really thinking about that afterward. I wasn't thinking at the time, but I remember afterwards going, because we filmed a lot. Did you film much?
Bits and bobs. I
Yeah.
mean, mainly, anything that's not me really would be lovely.
I had we had a camera in the drum room, camera in the control room, and a camera in the vocal booth at all times.
Wow.
Nobody wants to see me. sing. Face for radio. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it wasn't our first time there, so
No,
I mean,
no.
So we were kind of fairly up on how he likes to work.
Yeah, the more you work with him, the better it gets. I think.
Yeah, I would agree
He
with
gets
that.
to know you, and
Yeah, I would agree with that.
he sort of tends to push you a bit more. I think. When the
Yeah,
the
well, he
more-
knows how much he can
knows,
push
like,
you.
you're like,
Yeah,
you can do better, sort of
Yeah.
thing. I think we should do that one again.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need that, I think. You
Yeah,
need that. It's
absolutely.
easy to get complacent.
Well, it's almost like it's extra pressure that you
Mm.
need.
Yeah.
I think.
Well,
I was afraid of it at first, and it sort of terrified me. But the
Is he a
more I
musician?
did it,
Is it-
Yeah, he is.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a bass
How funny!
player
The last time we were there, we went. He had a gig on one
Yeah.
of the nights when we finished.
Oh.
We went to watch him play.
Oh,
Nice.
It was hilarious. He plays in like a covers band.
Yeah, he plays bass, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Oh, it was hilarious. It was so much fun. And then we
Yeah.
went out drinking afterwards. Oh, it was
I
cracking.
don't know. I mean, yeah, he would often say to me, what did you think of that? And I'd go, I thought it was shit. Let's do it again. You know
Oh,
what
he
I
does
mean?
how would you rate it out of 10?
Yeah,
He does
yeah,
that.
yeah, he does that one. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you've got to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Like, if I nailed it first time, I'd just give him the wink. You know what I mean?
but
but-
that numbering system automatically you've got like, I've got to be honest. I can't
Yeah.
bullshit
Yeah.
him because he
No,
knows
No.
this is the 14th time he's watched me do this, so he knows.
Yeah,
He knows the
yeah.
answer. He just wants me to be honest with him.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
can work the other way as well. And there was a couple where I wasn't that happy with, say, my playing on a particular bit because we were trying to do it fairly live. We'd play it, and I said, no, let's do it again. And Brad said, no, that had a vibe about it. That sounded really good. And I was like, no, let's do it back. Fuck, he's right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
kept it.
Yeah,
I went with his instinct.
yeah. I started to trust Matt more the more we were there
Yeah.
in his opinions on things. I would, if he said we've got it, we don't need to do any more. I'd be like, all right, okay. Even if I thought maybe we should do another one, no, we got it.
I mean, yeah, it was really collaborative, this one. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, he'd ask me what I thought, I'd ask him what he thought. And if neither of us had a strong opinion either way, then it doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? But if one of us felt strongly about something, then we'd go that way. If the other one wasn't that bothered, I mean,
Yeah.
it would be like, do you like that sound? I'm not bothered. Well, I think it's shit. Right. Well, let's find a better one then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a silly
I liked
example.
his
but-
persistence. There's a famous in between us of Steve, which we need to put out at some point, where like we changed the end of the song fairly recently, and he just couldn't get the new ending. Like it just the timing of it, but he kept stopping. And Matt was like, "No, well, just carry on. If you fuck up, we've got a click. Just keep going. Just try and make it to the end of the song." And it got to about the third or fourth time, and Steve would fuck up and stop. And there's this clip, and you could hear it in one of the mics. So it's just, if I spontaneously fucking combust, finish the fucking song.
Yeah.
And Steve was like really pissed off, and it was just like it was one of those like dramatic moments. And afterwards, we were all killing ourselves laughing
Yeah.
at it.
It's Yep. We've all had things like that. Yeah.
But I think you need all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff because it makes it so much more rewarding at the end when you're done.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
All the stuff that went into it.
It's got a very dry sense of humour, does Matt? So
He does,
yeah,
doesn't he?
Very
Like,
dry.
some stuff like we'd be joking about, and like he'd be there, and he's like, Nothing. Just.
Yeah.
And at other times he'd be like laughing and joking. It just depends.
That fatigue can set in as well, can't it? That happened. A similar thing happened with us. Was one track that I wrote. It's kind of a pastiche of country thing that I wrote. It's called Hillbilly Blues, and it's one of the instrumentals, and I just couldn't play it. I just couldn't play the opening riff, and we were about 7 songs in on the first day, and I had to put my guitar down and said, no, that's it, come back tomorrow. Because I was
best
fried.
thing for it.
I was totally
Best thing
fried.
for it.
I walked in the next morning, I played it first time.
Yeah.
That was the take on the album is the first take of the second day.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, doesn't it? It just shows, like
frame of mind.
I was totally gone. I was goosed. In fact, I think I could play it when I got home. I think I had to prove to myself I could play it. I picked my guitar up and I played it. And it was just totally,
Actually, Matt was good at that.
Yeah.
The longer we had a working relationship with him, was going, I think we're done. You're done for today.
Yeah.
We'll carry it on tomorrow because you've passed your point. You're going downhill now.
Well, we both did. We got to like 6 days of guitars, and it was like, we can't do guitars anymore right now.
It gets to a point where you sort of
You
get
don't know what you're
numb
doing.
to it.
doubt your own judgment.
So we started fucking around with keyboards instead.
Yeah.
Just like, this is...
It's like white noise eventually, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like, well, I think that works, but I'm not sure. And
Oh, and he's upgraded everything since we were last there as well.
has he? I
think
know.
it was like I don't know if it was a new pool table and a new TV and
Yeah.
games console and
Yeah, hookers and blow. Yep.
yeah, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But every time someone posts footage
Where's
up
this
from that studio,
again?
in
It's
Doncaster.
Doncaster,
Oh,
yeah. Fluffers and everything, man. It's great.
It's really good though.
Yeah, no, it
That's
sounds great. Yeah.
Sensational.
No, it sounds
Sensational.
great.
Matt's
I'll
really-
recommend it to anyone who can
What-
afford it.
What's it? Axis, did you say?
Axis,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. I'll check
Yeah.
it out, definitely.
We'll put a
it's
link
cool.
in the show
Awesome,
notes.
awesome.
But I mean, Sony, like, I don't know. Do you remember the first band that you know of who you heard who'd come from there? Like, you heard the music and went, "Oh, that sounds good." How did you end up there in the first place?
Our manager at the time. And I say our manager because it was both our managers. At
Oh,
the time.
Raz.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one. Yeah.
He recommended it for us.
I think Falling Red was the first band that I
Yeah.
had heard of going there, and then later, when we did the second one, we were thinking whether do we go there or not. And then Absolver went there, did one of their albums, and just the sound of it, because he didn't used to always mix and master it,
Right.
but he started doing it, and we were just like, we were rumming an hour, and should we get it mixed and mastered somewhere else? And then we heard that, and we're like, that sounds amazing.
No, I thought Black Spiders did some really good
Yeah, they
stuff
did.
there.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And yeah, I've heard quite a few really good albums from there. So
When we did Elected Evil, we had to wait. We got delayed because of Tony from Terrorvision, the singer.
yes.
He did a acoustic album or something like that, and he overran.
Yes.
So we were there the Monday morning, and Matt was still doing stuff that had overran, and it's just like, well, let him off.
Yeah. I think he's got a better balance now in terms of.
Yeah, I saw
working.
he put online whether musicians would rather he charges per day or per
per
he's
song
per
was it?
week.
Yeah.
because obviously it used to be just like it's this much for a week or this much for 2 weeks, or would you rather pay per day or I can't
thought
remember
it
what
was per song.
Some
rather
Oh,
than-
per
studios charge
song.
per song.
per
don't
song.
they?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
see, people are just going in to record individual tracks, not necessarily with an EP or an album
Yeah.
in mind.
Yeah, which is not the
We-
most cost-effective.
we
way
got
of
that
doing
No,
it,
it's not.
but-
It's not.
We got that option. They said they had a rate for per song, and then an hourly rate. And when we saw what the rate per song was, I thought, well, we intend to record this fairly quickly. It wasn't really a money thing. It was just the way we wanted to do it. And
Yeah.
and it would have ended up costing us about 5 times more to record it per song. Like
Ah,
11,
right.
11 tracks.
Yeah.
Rather than like I said, the recording was all done in 2 days, and the mixing and mastering on a third day. So yeah, that would have ended up costing us significantly more if we'd done it that way. Yeah.
I don't know when it comes to Matt. I mean, I think the way he works is great, and I'm not sure he needs to offer that. If he feels like it, then cool, and then if people are taking up on him, then great. But I mean, I think the way he works works. It's proven to work. You know what I mean?
It's that old school, like the way we all know all artists have gone into a studio and you've got to be on it, you've got to execute the songs, and like I don't ever want that to go away. I feel privileged to have been able to go through that and had something to put out at the end of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he does like to edit and stuff as he goes along as well.
Yeah.
And that's that's stuff that you won't fully appreciate until way after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because at the time you just kind of sat there playing a PS or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Or watching something, kind of going, "What is he doing?" And actually, he's making
20
the whole
minutes
thing.
later, he goes, "Come and have a listen."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly it all works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So, like, I noticed it's exactly the same as me. You had a notepad and stuff in the different sessions. So, what sort of things were you, like, paying attention to?
Everything.
Was it, like, you trying to make it sure it all stayed to how you thought it should sound, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I had really specific ideas for snare drum sounds in certain songs. I had really specific ideas for the way the kit should sound on certain songs. I knew exactly how I wanted the guitars and the basses to sound on certain songs. I knew what vibe I wanted to achieve on certain songs and which ones there was a lot of different feelings, like different textures going on throughout the entire record. So hopefully that makes it a more interesting experience to listen to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and eventually I started writing down what people were playing, so that we had a reference point, so we could say, well, Jackson played a Jaguar and an ES-125 on this through that amp, and it's this snare drum, and it's that bass, and it's this and that and the other. The only person I didn't write that down for is me, because I was a bit busy at the time, but and I was there on my own, so everybody else got all their cups of coffee made for them, and I didn't, so bastards.
So is there no footage of you doing the guitar takes?
There is a bit of when I was doing the multi-track, because the multi-track guitars, because we were doing vocals as well, so Jackson was there for that.
Right.
Apart from that, don't think so.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I just enjoyed I enjoyed the whole process of it.
It's good fun. What's not to like? What's not to like?
But yeah, I would recommend that to any musician out there. Just try and get to be able to record in a studio and just go through the whole process.
Well, particularly this time, because I mean, on the Raven we did it in 10 days. Well, we recorded the main bulk of it in 10 days. We actually did an extra day later on, but the main bulk of it was done in 10 days, and I think that was too fast for everybody.
It's a lot to cram in, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no room.
And you don't realise how much it is to cram in.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this time we knew what we wanted. You know, we had a very specific idea of the sounds for different songs. We had I've already told you about our rules.
Yeah.
And we knew what we wanted the vocals to kind of... we didn't want to double track vocals. We didn't want to do this, that, and the other. We wanted a lot of clarity, a lot of space. You know, and I think it takes time to work out the sounds involved in that. You know what I mean? You know, I remember at one point Matt said, "Are you going to put tremolo on this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, we've got tremolo on everything." And I was like, "And?" He's like, "No, well, I like tremolo, that's fine." And I'm just like, "Yeah, cool." And he also turned around and said, because I made him put a gong on something. And he turned around and went, "So this song's about this. What has that got to do with a gong?" And I went, "Fuck all. I just really like gongs." He was like, "Right, fair enough." So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff on that album that is unusual. Unusual. Hopefully it makes it a richer and more interesting listening experience. Hopefully.
Yeah.
What I've got back from the people whose opinions I've trusted that I've sent it to kind of get an honest opinion has been overwhelmingly positive so far. So
Good stuff. Glad to hear it.
especially at 15 tracks, you're kind of thinking, "Shit, is that dragging a bit? Is that a bit there?" You know what I mean?
That is the challenge.
Yeah.
To make it not boring and make it past the, what do they call it? The 30-second challenge.
Yeah.
People
Old grey
give
whistle
it-
test.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently, the people seem to like it.
That's also
so-
the challenge live as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of the hardest things is to, like, if you're doing like an hour and a half, to make it engaging. This is what we're saying about dynamics, highs
Yeah,
and lows in a
definitely.
show, and
I do think once you've got an audience, though, you know, if it's a song of yours that they know very, very well, then that can make your life much easier.
oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but you're always gonna constantly have new people in the audience.
Oh,
who've never
yeah,
seen
of course you
before,
are,
so
yeah,
you
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
gotta have that in mind. I always think that about like you listen to a lot of podcasts, by the sound
Yeah,
of it,
quite a few, yeah.
and I do as well. And I always find some of them, they never introduce the show. They never say what the show's about. And I always have I always do that because I always have in mind someone's going to listen to this for the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
What what the fuck's the show about? Like, and I get frustrated when I listen to shows and that. What is this about? Like, oh, then the description doesn't really
Doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, and the music is kind of and your live show is kind of the same way. It's like it's an art form, isn't it?
Well, it is. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, though, it is live, and you know, if people wanted to listen to the album, they would just go and listen to the album, right?
True.
They're there to see the mistakes. They're there to see the show. They're there to see Hoss's guitar get pulled out of his guitar when he's fannying on, or you know, or Steve get on his knees playing his bass, or Jackson nearly fall over backwards, or whatever. You know what I mean? They're there for the show. They're there for those things that make it
come alive.
Unique.
Yeah, and also it's very human, I think, watching a gig.
Yeah, all the stuff we're talking about, digital and streaming, there's nothing that can replace that live show.
No.
However the music was created, the live show will always remain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like vinyl will always remain, because you can't replicate that, can you?
No.
You can't, like, just you having to have it mastered separately in a certain way to get it on vinyl.
Yeah,
that speaks volumes.
Yeah, because you know, all audio is analog, right? In order to make it digital, you have to make it digital.
Yeah,
right? It's not ones and zeros. It's analog.
No,
that's
right.
what it is.
Yeah.
You know, you do different things for vinyl than you would do for CD or MP3 or whatever. You know what I mean? You tend to compress it a bit less and various other things. But
So you've got your album coming out later this year, some point.
Yeah.
You're going to record a new album this year, probably.
Hopefully, be another one this year. Yeah.
And get it out this year.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, I haven't thought that far ahead yet, because with the last one only coming out in like back end of August last year.
Yeah.
I've been kind of road testing these songs, and still really, I mean, finding the groove of where the band sits stylistically and all that stuff.
You're just at the beginning of the journey, aren't you?
Basically, yeah, really. I mean, I think we know where we are and what we want to sound like and stuff, and we're happy with the way we do sound.
It's hard to predict where you're going to go, though, isn't it? You've just got to do it.
Where do we go next with it as well, you know, and the next album, I do want it to be a bit more involved. And
what do you mean by involved?
Harmonically, you know, we kind of run the risk initially of we kind of almost build ourselves as a bluesy band, probably with the intention of thinking we'll get on some big blues festivals and stuff like that, and we know we can get away with more improvisation and that kind of thing. So there's a bit of sort of 1-4-5 going on, you know, in terms of the harmony on the first album. Not all the songs, you know. There's some interesting harmonic stuff going on, but with this next one, I've got sort of grander ideas in terms of what I want to do, just musically, into, you know, how involved the arrangements are and stuff like that, and that can isolate you from certain things. You know, I mean, we've been quite lucky. We've had the album played a lot on the radio, a lot of sort of independent stations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see who picks which songs, you know, which stations, but you know,
that's stuff you can't predict.
Well, yeah, there's one tune on the album called C4, and it's named after John Branch's unit.
Yeah, right.
It was going to be called C7 because it was originally just a vamp on a C7 chord.
Right.
And Jeff said, "Oh, it's got to be C4 because we're in." And it has got an explosive nature to it, and it's basically an all-out sort of fusion wig fest, you know. And that's kind of what it became, and it's kind of two bookends really, which is the head, the melody, and then a big jam in the middle. That's kind of what the tune is, and that one's been played loads in America, and it's so out there, you know, and it's so weird, and then other stations will pick the more commercially sounding ones, you know, so it's where you decide which way you're going to sort of push yourself in, you know, which way you go, you know. But it'll probably end up being similar to what you were saying, where, because it's a very eclectic album anyway. Like, say, there's one tune on there that's like a 7/8 heavy prog thing, and then the very next tune after it is a John Coltrane jazz standard, you know. So it's a combination of all our different tastes and influences and things like that. So yeah, that I'm kind of just trying to collate it all in my head, really.
Yeah.
And see what it goes. I would also like the other two to have a bit more involvement in the writing, if possible, as well.
Well, that's the kind of stuff that gradually changes as you go along, isn't it?
Yeah, and because John, the drummer, he's a brilliant. he's a composer, you know. That he's written musicals and stuff like that before, and he's had a lot of published stuff, you know. And I mean, he practically lives on royalties from stuff he's done in the past, you know. So he's fantastic. He wrote some stuff for the Necromandus thing we did, and it's like it's incredible music actually when you sit and listen to it. And he's very old fashioned. He writes it all out, you know, and he'll just hand me a manuscript and say, "Oh, that's the tune," and I'll sit and play it and go, "This is amazing," you know. But he's one of these musicians, a bit like you were saying when you had a break and you had to come back to it.
Yeah.
I think it was Oscar Wilde that said, you know, creatives create when the pain of not creating becomes too great. You know, it's that. I think that's very true. Like we're so lazy. We're lazy. You know, we're like, you know, we don't. We'll put it off as long as possible, you know, and then there comes a point where you've got to get it out, you know.
But I think you can only create when you feel like creating. You can't force it.
I agree.
It just doesn't work.
And it decides when it's ready.
It does.
You
just feel it.
I totally
agree.
You
just feel it, don't you?
It can be months. It can be years after you come up with that original riff, and you're kind of like, oh, I've got nowhere to take it, and then 3 or 4 years later you come to it, and you're like, that's where that goes.
Yes, it just comes to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. But you know, I think maybe Peruvian Baroque acid funk. I think that could work. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Try that.
Yeah.
Panpipes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But no, John's definitely in that what's the word? Like headspace. You know, he's he might not write anything for a while, but then when he's brilliant, you know. So I would like a bit more of their input. Not even necessarily. I mean, I don't mind taking almost fully formed ideas and then you know, because the thing is with them, one of the reasons I wanted to play with them is because they're so good. So, and I'm fairly relaxed in the sense that I trust them that they play their instruments better than I do, so they know what the best thing is to play there. You know, and I just give them an idea and say I want it to be this sort of feel. Or I had this idea there, and usually what happens is, you know, things evolve. But when we did those initial little recordings to give to the guy in the studio, when we went into the studio, they didn't sound anything like that because maybe they'd for the first time had a chance to take the songs home and listen to them, you know, and think, oh, hang on, this sounds miles better here, or this bass line works better here, or, you know, and then I suddenly started hearing like sort of harmonies and counterpoints coming from the bass, or you know, like say John picks up on rhythms and stuff, and then it suddenly starts to sound much more like a fully formed song once the band get involved, you know. So yeah, I'm quite excited actually about where it's going to go, just because I just want to know for myself, really, more than anything else. But that's the main focus at the minute, is just to sort of keep to work on that and get that sort of out there, really. Before I worry too much about sort of the logistics, really. Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We just did how long?
A long time.
How long?
2 hours 45.
Wow.
Ish.
Well, we just did 2 hours 45. I've got 2 pages of notes and I didn't look at them once.
Great.
So it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll put links to all your. Where can people find your stuff?
Everywhere.
If you search Dean Newton Trio, you'll find it.
Yeah, search that. Yeah, Spotify, Facebook, Bandcamp.
Oh yes.
All the places.
You have an issue on Spotify.
Do we?
You have an imposter 13 stars.
Oh, that's the American one.
If you go on, I just did it, right? I do this all the time. If we've got someone who's got songs on, we put them on the Bluetooth before while we're just setting up. I just hit in 13 stars, clicked on your thing, pressed shuffle, a couple of your songs come on, and then this other song, this isn't 13 stars. What's going on? So their songs are actually in your...
I know. I've asked.
Who came first?
They did. But they don't exist anymore, so...
But their songs can still stay there, though. That's unfortunately.
Well, we've said to that is an ongoing issue that's being looked at.
They should at least be separated anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
I don't understand how that can even happen in
No,
this day and age.
You'd think with all the like IRC codes and all
Yeah,
that,
because you're completely different.
Wouldn't happen,
Yeah.
It's like when you do CD production, it has their own unique codes.
Yeah.
You think Spotify would be able to
That's what I
incorporate
mean,
that
that's
into its
what-
algorithm, but
You'd think, wouldn't you?
anyway.
But then again, when they're not paying people for their songs, they probably don't give a shit.
That's a conversation for another day. And well, I'll have you both back in the future when we've got other stuff going on. So it's been an absolute pleasure, guys.
Thanks
Cheers.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.